All right, we're live. I think I finally figured it out. Hey, everybody. Man, I gotta fix that profile pic on Kick, or whatever that is. That is goofy looking. What's the time here? Double check my stream key. Yeah, it looks good. Alright, there we go. Yeah, now we're live. Cool. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, let's just keep pushing through this. Alright, so I'm trying to build an integration with ship test, and kind of vibe coding it, hoping, cross my fingers, hoping for the best. Let's see here. Cloud Code's arguing with my ID, saying that it's complaining about stuff. It's claiming they're false positives. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. Let's commit and push. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so let's figure out what's going on here. Okay, so we got... Let's wait till it's done. There we go. Okay, so we got less errors, but still a lot. I'm trying to get this compact where it kind of it's visible on stream. Wait, we're on the wrong window here. Hang on, guys. I apologize. Let's go. Oh, it's not even listed here. Let's do create new. creating a plugin for ShipStation that's compatible with Vendure, the e-commerce, open source e-commerce server app thing. Sorry, let me stretch this real quick. Set to fit to stretch to screen. There we go. And that's the wrong window. Hang on. Maybe it's not. Yes, it is. The wrong window. Hang on. Maybe I can change that to... There it is. All right. Okay, back to this. Got 139 errors, bunch of warnings. Let's go ahead and just drop this in. Actually, let's look at some of these errors really quick. What's up, Lazarus? What the heck's going on here? So, okay, let's configure node. You probably can't see that, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to set this up a little different. I'm just gonna set the node interpreter, tell it to use the default latest version of node on my system. All right. Did that just get rid of some errors? Let's see. All right, let's try this. All right, let's see what's going on. All right, still loading. Yeah, I need a slave driver meme. That would be perfect. That is my life. Hey, it's Touch18, my favorite viewer. All right, there you go. Oh, heck yeah. Okay, cool. Getting way less errors now. All right, let's open these up. Let's see what's complaining about. Import could be shortened. Okay, I'm not really too worried about that, but sure, why not? Let's see. Yeah, these I don't like. All right, let's go ahead and refresh it. Let it do it again. Chun Li. Pull up Chun Li for research purposes. Let's see. Oh, sorry guys, my internet's down. No, I'm just kidding. Holy cow. She looks like she could. She looks like she could twist your head off with her legs. Go back to the window? What window? This one? This one right here?
Plant roots and watch them grow.
Oh, by the way, chat, last night
Whoa.
I turned on Fight. Holy shit. Holy shit. I turned on Fightcade, right? And I just wanted to see what holy shit. Holy shit. Brother, the drumstick. What was I talking about?
Alright, I'm not gonna watch this for 30 minutes. That's funny though. Alright. Thanks for the useless waste of time there. Alright, let's see. Let's go back here. Let's see what's going on. Wait, didn't I just fix this? Yes, I did. Okay, here we go. Well, I don't know what yeah, I have no idea what that is. I don't know what the emote is. Alright, how am I supposed to know? I don't got time for games. What the heck? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Alright, let's see here. I'm gonna drop these into... I better be careful, because I might have... And I do. Alright, let's see. Let's go and... Let's go to Notepad. Yeah, it's the wrong terminal window. Hang on. I gotta add this other terminal window. Hang on. Bear with me, bear with me. Wait, what's the name of this window? Boom. There we go. Alright, there we go. Now you can see it. Drop this in here. Just have it fix these useless errors. See what happens. Next break, I have one more video that's great. I don't got time for videos. Alright, so while this is working on the rows, I'm gonna have to get some integration for it doesn't take break for 6. No, I don't. I never take 6-hour breaks. I wish I could. Alright, let's see. Whoa, that's a crazy looking text beam. Is that what that is? Wow, that's crazy. I have no idea how you did that. Yeah, mod versus mod. ASCII? Never heard of it. Goodness, I can't believe there was a time when I used to have a bunch of the ASCII characters memorized. It's so stupid. Using them in old QBasic programs to like display a character on the screen. Like, I want to display a space. Or no, I want this to be a angle bracket. What a waste of time. What do you mean? What do you mean you're not sure if you can post it? Goodness. I might have to get new moderators. Or at least, I don't know. I'm starting to wonder about Lazarus. I'm thinking about giving him the boot. Oh. It's some weird character holding a weird heart. Yeah, watch out for that. I'm sure people... I can't... Oh my goodness, dude. What kind of a world do we live in? Okay, let's go back to our window here and see if we got anything going. I'm not allowed to look at my own chat. It's my chat. I can do whatever I want with it. If he's a science, I have to worry about it. Oh, my bad. Back to work. Alright, let's see here what we've got going on. It's a little bit big, a little bit too big. Actually, what am I doing over here? Let's see. Man, this thing is so slow. So slow. I have a pretty fast computer too. I don't know why it's so slow doing code analysis. Okay, we only got 3 errors, guys. Or warnings. Yeah, I can deal with that. Alright, see, hover, fix that. AI is dumb, doesn't know you can shorten those. Commit and push. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't look at chat. I got a lot of work. I do have a lot of work to do. Plus, the chat makes me nervous. It stresses me out. What is that? That's weird looking. Looks demonic. Yeah, can you guys clean the chat? Oh, it looks like... Is that supposed to be Shrek? Did you guys notice I shaved? Kind of. Alright, thorough exception caught warnings. What's going on here? You know what? Commit and push it anyways. Okay, whatever. I don't have to worry about pushing to my server right now. Let's just go ahead and... Alright, so I think what I want to do is I want to test. Let's take a look at this project structure. Let's look at the source. Alright, so when vendure gets a... Let's see, so when vendure gets an order, it's going to have to push it to ShipStation. I'm not even sure if that will work. Oh my goodness. I have the worst moderators on the internet. Yes, Pandora's box has been opened. Let's see here. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the API client. Let's see what this guy's doing. It's literally just a simple API client. Okay, get the URL. Send the data. Okay. Let's see what the service does. ShipStation service initialized. Okay, get config for channel. I have no idea what the... Okay, get the store config. Let me minimize this so I can actually see what's in the code. Wait, what's going on up here? Element not supported? I don't know what that means. I'm gonna pop that into... I'm actually gonna pop that into... I'm gonna go ahead and pop that into AI. Because I don't know what... it says it's element not supported. That would be... That's coming from vendure core. Okay. So if I go over here, see if it can figure that out while you go back and look at the code. Thank you, Ethan. Sorry, I mean Torch 18. Alright. Map order to ShipStation. Okay, let's see, get bill, map address. I have no idea what that is. Ship to, I know what that means. Okay, billing address, shipping address, two different things. So it's getting the addresses from the current order. Map lines, so it's going to map off of lines, and then it's basically going to do some magical mapping. This is so small and hard to work with, but I want it to be visible on stream. Alright, so if you go look at the items, it's going to return an array of these object types. Line item key, SKU, name, quantity, unit, price. Okay. Tax amount. Since to decimals. I have no idea what this method is. Takes cents, divides it by 100, so that gives you dollar amounts. Okay, so apparently it fixed the ID import. So you got to import ID from shared types. Okay. Alright, shipping amount, default mapping, extend order mapping. Okay, so let me do this instead. I'm wasting a lot of time. So let me ask AI, can I send a, can you write an integration test to send an actual order to ShipStation using our code. mic so I can see my computer screen. Okay, there we go. Shield mode on. Only visible to moderators. Chat was cleared by a moderator, prevented by better TTV. All right. Yeah, at this rate, I don't think very many people are gonna stick around for this stream. I'm pretty sure I'm being actively sabotaged by my own friends and family. How do I even delete messages? I don't think I can. Unless I like ban you, which I don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't see a ban. I don't see a delete option. Whatever. It's going down in the history books. What's written is written. It's there forever. Yeah, I know. It's probably because I'm using this like tool, this like kind of free like Twitch thing that comes with like OBS, or I think it's integrated into OBS. Yeah, I mean the CIA would, or the NSA. They would gladly go through the whole chat. Okay, yes, let's create an integration test. Okay, let's see, let that keep working. Okay. Terminal window. Alright, so I'm gonna make it where I can just specify the gateway I want to use in the configuration, and that way I can just switch it in production. Alright, let's go back to the other window. Okay, so we need an API key, secret, store ID. I don't have a store. It says it's optional. Okay. I don't have a test sandbox account. But I also am not super worried about the orders going through. I mean, unless ShipStation charges me, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to email them and just ask them They sent me an email here from this person. Let me see if I can see if they'll email me back. Sorry, I'm just writing an email here real quick to ShipStation. I need to test an integration with your API. I need an API key. I'm not sure where to find it in your website. Also, can I enter orders without causing charges? I am working with a provider who has already verbally to keep an eye out for test orders and ignore them. Thank you. Alright, let's see if they get back to me. We'll see. Not really super hopeful I'll get anything back very quickly. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on from this. I can't really test the payment. Sorry, I can't test the I can't test ShipStation's integration right now without causing issues. So I'm just going to go ahead and check in the code I got. Actually, I'm going to take a quick look at it and see what they did. See what the... I don't know what that noise is. Sorry, I keep hearing a noise in the background like a big engine or a truck or something. Let's see. Shirt types. Okay, that's cool. Oh, my camera locked up again. Dang it. I don't know, sorry. There's some kind of background noise. Alright, camera's back up. Alright, let's get back to it. We're wasting time, boys. We're wasting all kinds of time. We're never going to get around to making that video game for Ethan. We're never going to make his dream game. It's never going to happen. He's going to be 90 years old and be like, I wrote the last line of the C++ code to display I finally perfected the ocean fluid dynamic physics, and I ended up with a buffer overflow error and I didn't get through it. He's gonna be 9 years old sitting on his... No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Let's see here. It's warning, these tests will create real orders in your ShipStation account. Okay, that's cool. I like it. That's what I want it to do. I want it to be dangerous. Okay, a plain old object is not assignable to T. Where is T? And what is T? Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to open this. Oh, son of a. Hang on. What is going on here? Oh, here's the T. Okay, so we're returning a type T, and then it's... Oh, that's why. Can't... Okay. I'm gonna have to fix that. Let's see here. I think... What would be the way to do that? Yeah, I'm not the best TypeScript guy. Okay, let's see here. What's the name of this file? ShipStation. That's great. ShipStation.service.spec.ts. I got way too many windows open. Let's see. If you have to update the firmware and then pay for the license to use your cybernetic arm, need to make a Linux-based one. Oh man. I think what you need to do is learn how to get the tooling to update firmware to begin with, because otherwise you can't change the code if you have no way to physically update firmware. And not everything comes with like a, well, just I guess just about everything has like a USB way connection. Yeah, noob. You're a noob. Okay, so Claude's solution is just to say, wrap it inside of a parentheses, and then just say, hey, just trust me, it's a T. It's a type T, as T. Listen, if the future is cyberpunk, I'm gonna be anti-corpo. What the heck is, yeah, what is corpo? Corporations? Anti-corporate? Alright, run type check. Oh, okay. Yeah, the best way to be anti-corpo is just don't ever be controlled by corporations. Don't depend on their stuff. Just make your own stuff. Buy a bunch of Raspberry Pis. Collect as many Raspberry Pis and USB cables as you can. And then just program them to do whatever you want. And then when you don't like what it does, you just reprogram it. Yes, get rid of everything in my house that was bought. No, I bought it. Why would I do that? That's stupid. Hang on, guys. Stream's over. I'm picking up my desk. I'm gonna take it out to put it up by the street. Have the trash guy take it. Good grief, Lazarus. Yep, hang on. Let me grab my light. Let me grab this nice microphone. Nope, nope. It's going in the trash. We're hardcore here. It's just going in the trash. There's no messing around. You're completely missing the point, Lazarus. Oh my goodness, man. I'm just saying, build as much as you possibly can so you don't need to rely completely on corporations. You're gonna get a real authentic Android girlfriend. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say. Oh, that's sad. That is so sad. Okay, let's see. All have been fixed. Okay. I literally can't read this. I have to expand this so I can see what I'm looking at. Alright, let's see here. Blade Runner. Never seen it. Okay. My dog literally got bored and just walked away. He just got tired of waiting on me. He's like, yep, this guy's lame. He's hopeless. He just left. Oh, he's back. Never mind. Never mind, he's back. Alright, okay. You made me feel a little better, buddy. Yeah, I feel better now. Thank you. Ex Machina? Well, I have no idea what that is. Ew, disgusting. Falling in love with AI. Oh, it's so gross. Come on, guys. What's really coming is Brave New World. I think they call it Un Mundo Feliz in Spanish. A Brave New World. Alright, let's see here. All right. I think 5 seconds is longer than enough. I'm gonna do like 15 seconds for this, whatever that is. Okay. Let's go ahead and check that in. Yes, uncultured swine. All right, I'm gonna see if these people emailed me. Okay, it's not working. You can quote me on the quote. He said it, not me. Oh my goodness. What did you clip? Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is get this integrated in. I'm going to try to get this... I'm actually going to switch over to my other... Actually, you know what? Let's go back. Let's go back here. Let's switch. Huh? Doesn't know how to type commands. Noob. Just a grifter. Influencer. Not even a real software dev. Let's see. Oh, you know what? No, it's... Okay, oh, a rhino? Yeah, I'm a rhino. Oh no, what am I gonna do with myself? I don't know, man. Rhinos are pretty scary from what I hear. Alright, why is it asking? I guess I've never gone into this project before. That's weird. Okay. Sorry, I gotta go into a different window real quick here. Let's see, allow reading from this project. Yes. I bet you people come in here and they see me using Claude Code and they're like, oh, this guy's an idiot. I have to get this stuff done really fast. I don't really have a choice. I'd actually rather be hand coding everything, but it would be literally like days and days and days of coding. It'd be like using a hand drill when you could use like a power drill. Let's see. Build the vendor plugin. The deadline has just changed to now. What deadline? I can't even get my moderators to watch. Okay, let's see. Build the vendor plugin. Dude, this is so lame. Can't wait to get done with this project. I'm pretty sure Claude has asked me to read from this folder like 5 times. Link vendor plugin. Okay. So I keep asking, I'll just put it this way. I keep asking this, my client or customer, what, I think my camera is a little bit off center. I keep asking my client, somebody I'm doing contract work for, what they want me to do. And so far, like, I can't get a clear answer from them. They just keep throwing out random thoughts. Like, it's like a stream of the consciousness. I guess they want me to yeah, I guess they just want me to magically figure out how to make their project work. So I don't know. I should be working on it right now, but I also got to do this. Coding is just magic. The more you do it, the less magical it is. There's no wizardry. computers are almost magical. I mean, the hardware, like how fast it can do stuff, is pretty amazing. Terry Davis said it's divine magic passed down from God. Oh my goodness, I gotta look that up. This guy sounds like a weirdo. Sorry. Maybe he's a cool guy. Davis. What did he say? Divine. The best programmer on earth. Oh my goodness.
I'm the best programmer on earth. That's why God chose. He gave me divine intellect. This is divine intellect. Isn't it obvious? So I have an ISO creation tool. I have a compiler. Basically, I'm the best programmer on earth chosen by God. And I was endowed with divine intellect. I'm the best programmer on earth, as evident by divine intellect, and fuck you. I'm the best programmer on earth.
What did
That's
he?
why God chose
What did he
me.
make?
He gave me divine intellect. This is divine intellect. Isn't it obvious? So I have an ISO creation tool. I have a compiler. Basically, I'm the best programmer on earth chosen by God. And I was endowed with divine intellect.
He has an. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was worth the watch. That was actually pretty funny. That was pretty funny. I hope he's joking, but I can't tell. I don't know if this guy's even written any code, and maybe he has. And even if he has, like, even if I could do better than him, I would never say that. He passed away? Oh, wow. Okay. Goodness, I didn't know he passed away. That's horrible. Here, I'll send you a link.
I'm the best.
Oh, that's loud. I guess I could read the comments. Me when I write 60-line if statement that chooses the color button. Pirate Software explaining how long he's worked at Blizzard. Yeah, that sounds about right. He designed an entire language, then used that language to build a kernel, compiler, bootloader, and OS, all from scratch, all while battling schizophrenia and homelessness. He really was a god-tier programmer. He probably was battling schizophrenia and homelessness due to doing all of that. That's probably true. All the problem solving drove him insane. Terry developed schizophrenia when he was a kid, long before he started programming, and he ended up homeless because the government stopped paying him disability, which caused problems at home because he was broke and didn't have it. Dude, that's crazy. What a crazy story. Wow. That's intense. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes programming can make you question your sanity. It really can. That's why it's good to go like get outside every once in a while, take a break, or a lot. Okay, here's a looking at this project. It's using module. Oh, what the heck? Okay. Excuse me. He's answering his phone and he goes, I built a compiler. Huh, interesting. Oh, so he's a software developer at Ticketmaster before he became schizo. Hmm. Now people are arguing about the Quran in the comments section. Oh my goodness. Alright, install TSX and relink again. What? Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't even know what the difference is between TS Node and TSX. I just wanted to use the what's the most modern thing for Node. Okay, so apparently it's gonna go with TSX. Oh, there's videos of him. What is he showing off in the videos? Test vendure app with ESM plugin. Oh, okay. Don't watch it on stream. It's that bad, huh? What? So what is this thing? He made Temple OS. What the heck is Temple OS? What a weird name too. That's interesting. A biblical themed lightweight operating system designed to be the third temple from the Hebrew Bible. It was created by the American computer programmer Terry Davis, who developed it alone over the course of a decade after a series of manic episodes that he later described as a revelation from God. Temple OS is an example of coding as an art form. The system was characterized as a modern x86-64 Commodore 64. using interface similar to a mixture of DOS and Turbo C. Sorry, let me pull it up here. Oh, wow. System features such as... He proclaimed that the system's features, such as its 640 by 480 resolution, 16 color display, and single voice audio, were designed according to the explicit instructions from God. It was programmed with a custom just-in-time variant of C named Holy C. Oh my goodness. In place of basic. Wow. It included an original flight simulator compiler and kernel. Whoa. Man. It has no networking or internet support as far as I'm concerned. That would be reinventing the wheel. Another name he used was Sparrow OS before settling on Temple OS. Non-preemptive, multitasking, multi-core, public domain, open source. Huh. It uses 8-bit ASCII text and includes built-in 2D and 3D graphics libraries. Wow. Running 640 by 480 VGA resolution with 16 colors. It includes keyboard and mouse support. Dude, I'm like tripping out. This is insane. There's actually a language called Holy C, formerly C+, possibly a pun on Holy See, also called the See of Rome. Huh. The Petrine See, or the Apostolic See, is the central governing body of the Catholic Church in Vatican City. Is a variant of and middle ground between the C and C++ programming languages designed by Terry Davis specifically for Temple OS. It functions as both a general purpose language and for application development and scripting language for automated tasks. It uses some object-oriented programming paradigms. Wow. Yeah, it is, yeah, I mean... Temple OS received mostly sympathetic reviews. Tech journalist David Cassell opined that programming websites tried to find the necessary patience and understanding to accommodate Davis. Tech Republic and OS News published positive articles on Davis's work, even though Davis was banned from the latter for hostile comments targeting its readers and staff. In his review for Tech Republic, James Sanders concluded that Temple OS is a testament to the dedication and passion of one man displaying his technological prowess. It doesn't need to be anything more. OS News editor Croc Kamen wrote that the OS shows the computing can still be a hobby. Why is everybody so serious these days? ? If I want to code an OS that uses interpretive dance as the input method, I should be allowed to do so. Companies like Apple be damned. Yeah. Yeah, that is sad. It reminds me of people that like build like structures by themselves, like giant structures. They just spend years and years, and they build like some giant structure in the middle of nowhere with like very few resources or by themselves. Let's see, rebuild plugin. By the way, here's a whoops. Here's Holy C language. It's compiled into x86 underscore 64 assembly code and allows for seamlessly mixing x86 underscore 64 and source code in an intuitive fashion. It's got these weird characters that I assume these are just like keywords in the language for like instead of function you just type u and then 0, and then this is some kind of, I don't know if that's an identifier, like type identifier for a string maybe. Let's see. Oh no, he's got a function keyword. I haven't coded in C in many, many years, so I don't know. This might be something in C that I've completely forgotten about. Am I crazy? What the heck is U0? What is that supposed to mean? The constant 0 means signed integer 0. Strictly speaking, signed octal 0. But you can also make explicitly unsigned constants by providing suffixes such as U. Oh, is that like the... So 0 means an integer, and then U would be unsigned. So OU means, or 0U is an unsigned integer. 0. In the C language, \0 represents the null character, not to be mistaken for the digit Z. Is that 0 or O? Oh, I think it's a 0. Yeah, it's actually the number 0. Wait, let me go back to Holy C. So what the heck is this? Okay, so it's an unsigned 0. Okay, got it. Unsigned integer 0u and 1u is unsigned int. Okay. What a weird typing system they have in C. Instead of just doing uint or int. Let's see here. Let's go back. No, C is not different than C. There's C language, and I was looking at Holy C, the one that written by Terry Davis. And this is probably just basic C syntax. I haven't coded in C since I was like a kid. So I honestly couldn't remember any of this stuff. Or I probably didn't even learn it. Or didn't think about it when I used it. But apparently this is basically saying an unsigned integer of 0. Which, I don't know. I guess, yeah. So, I guess that's just syntax in C for saying that maybe this main function doesn't return anything, it's void. And then like u8 probably is an unsigned integer of the number 8. What does the C stand for? I don't know. Yeah, I don't. That's a great question. Its parent B and its grandparent BCPL. I guess it's because it came from C. It came spun out of C. I mean B. So they just followed the alphabet, I guess. This is like a really long, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it I guess it just came because it came out of B. Its parent B. So they just named it C. They went, well, this one's called B, so the new one will be C. Just following the alphabet, I guess. It is the name of the language that succeeded earlier language called B. Yeah, so they just that's it. They just named it C since it came after B. Weird. Alright, see here. Let's go back. C++ was after... Yeah, I know. They're getting so loud right now. Goodness, I hope somebody's feeding them. Yeah, I can see them on the camera outside. They're just standing there by the fence, just waiting for food. All right, let's see here. Yeah, it stands for cows. Yeah, C++ is it's like a superset of C. So it's basically like follows the C language a little bit, but like it's just a bunch of stuff added on, like a ton of stuff added on. So theoretically, I guess it's a more like full complete language with more features, like more things you can do in the coding language. Just a bunch of like new concepts as computer hardware probably got like more advanced and people got more lazy. They just kind of went, okay, simplify it and create new features so you can more easily manage like, you know, different things with like modern concepts. I wonder what, let's see. Interesting. It was developed by Strastrup at Bell Labs in 1979 as an extension of the C language. He wanted an efficient and flexible language similar to C that also provide high-level features for program organization. C++ offered support for objects memory management. Since its invention, C++ has grown to require a definition of over 1,000 pages. Yeah, it's grown huge. Like the documentation on C++ alone is like bigger than the Bible. And open sourcing it has turned it into an urban sprawl of random features. For me personally, I code in C++ because most of my programs benefit from the object model and avoid most of the more modern additions. This gives me the features I want, and the implementation lets me ignore most of the new stuff. Yeah, so you can just use more like traditional features and not get lost in all the new stuff that's being added to like the C++, I don't know what you call it, definition. Let's see here. I got to take a look at what's going on here. So ShipStation plugin configured but not loaded. Yeah, did you watch that video, Torch 18, that I sent you? The one from the like expert C++ dev that talked about how much he hated the language, even though he likes it and he uses it. Like he basically just kind of like hates on it. Okay, it's a really long video, so I understand if you didn't listen to the whole thing, but he breaks it down. And he just goes in really in depth about like just all the different features and all the different options you have to do basically very similar things. It's super duper fast though. Like if you know what you're doing, C++ is like really low level, and I mean, it's comparable to like Rust, which is newer. They and theoretically it can be faster. But like it's just super fast, and if you use it right, you can have apps be like lightning fast, like no delay whatsoever. Especially on modern hardware. Like smoking fast. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I wonder if I can find that video really quick. Some of the stuff that guy said had me laughing so hard. Excuse me. Let's see. Switch accounts. Too much AI encoding. Sorry, I'm just reading videos on my YouTube front page. All right. Goodness.
Atrocious. First of all, there's like 20 different ways to initialize a variable, and there's so many rules and edge cases around initialization that somebody wrote a 300-page textbook.
Okay, hang on. This is hilarious.
Just about different ways. C++ is
okay. See.
Absolutely atrocious. First of all, there's like 20 different ways to initialize a variable, and there's so many rules and edge cases.
So look at all the different ways you can initialize x. Int x. X open close bracket, x equals open close bracket, x equals int open close parentheses, x equals 10, x equals int parentheses 10, and the list just goes on and on and on.
Around initialization that somebody wrote a 300-page textbook solely on this.
Somebody wrote a 300 I'm sorry. Somebody wrote a 300-page textbook just on how to initialize variables in C++.
Just about everything in C++ is a mess. Consider the
okay. Why are there so many different ways? Why are there so many different ways? What's the point? I think some of it might be, well, actually it says right here, it actually breaks it down. Default initialization, uninitialized garbage value. So there's like, I think this one you don't want to do, because if you're not really careful, it'll just end up like, I think C++ will instantiate it in memory where it basically can just get lost and not ever get picked up. This is a different way of setting it to 0 apparently, so you could do x open curly brace and then close curly brace. Value initialization equals 0. I guess that's the same as this one, except you just use an equal sign because it looks better, so that's stylistic. This one creates temporary but then copies it. Yeah, so it's just like, there's just, that's just mind-blowing. This one does the same thing apparently, but it initializes to 10. Um, that's just dumb. I don't know why you do this. It's literally going to set x to 0. Evaluates to the rightmost. Direct initialization, direct list. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. That's why C++ is no joke. No joke.
To initialize a variable, and there's so many rules solely on this one topic. Just about everything in C++ is a mess. Consider the task of printing something to the console. Most languages have a simple print function to do that, but in C++, you have to use this growth.
It's some of it's needlessly complex, and then some of it's like legit, like different ways of actually doing things that you can use to your advantage if you really want to, and you know what you're doing. But it's best to just stick with best practices until you're getting to like really performance critical things, and then you can sort of get experimental and try like different things. If it's like got to be super high speed and memory efficient or whatever you're trying to do, you can get really tricky with the way you instantiate variables, and then the way you track them, the way you create them, track them, the way you tear them down when you're done with them, all that kind of stuff. Because memory allocation in C++ is like really gives you lots and lots of, like, too much control over memory allocation in a way. So you can create things in a way that are like where they can just end up floating in memory space, and it's super fast and efficient. But on the other hand, if you don't go around cleaning it up and making sure you're tracking that stuff and getting rid of it, you're going to end up with a really bad like memory leaks. Hang on one sec, I gotta look at this really quick. Saved. So yeah, it is kind of bloated. There over the years there has been things added that are just not necessary, and they just added it to the spec for the language, and then all the compilers kind of start supporting it.
Angle bracket syntax. We did eventually get a normal print function in 2023, only 40 years after the...
Oh wait, I wanted to see that. Sorry,
console.
I missed that.
Most languages have a simple print function to do that, but in C++, you have to use this gross angle bracket syntax.
Standard : C out, and then the guy just punches his screen.
We did eventually get a normal print function in 2023, only 40 years after the inception of the language, but sadly, most of...
And they finally got this standard print.
The industry is still stuck on older versions of C++, so it's unlikely that you'll get to use cutting-edge...
Yeah, that's in C++ 20, I think he said.
...stuff like this in practice anytime soon. Here's another example of C++...
Like, a lot of people are still using C++ 17, which is relatively old, but it's also considered modern. But there's probably libraries out there that go way back in older versions of C++ that are still like in production systems today.
Consider the task of generating a random number. In Python, you just call random.randint and you're done. Whereas in C++, you have to create a random device and a standard MT19937, and then you have to go on a side quest to figure out what an MT19937 is.
Yeah, what's an MT19937? Oh gosh, I want to look it up now. Should I look it up? I don't know. Should I look it up? Okay, I'll let it
Create
run.
a standard uniform int distribution, and then inject the MT19937 inside the uniform int distribution, and finally we get a random number.
Yeah, this is how you generate a random number.
Although this code isn't too hard to read, it's difficult to conjure up from memory when you actually need it. Writing a benchmark is even worse, by the way.
My energy bill dropped from $150
Oh,
to
crap.
$50 by doing that. A power saver device.
Here's an example of doing it in C++ versus JavaScript. There are ways to
Wait, what is this generating a random number? It looks like it. High resolution clock time point equals a high resolution clock now. Okay, so we're getting the current time. My function to benchmark. Oh, okay, he's talking about, okay, never mind. He's talking about tracking how long it takes for something to run. Get the diff. Duration equals microseconds of the diff. Convert it to, I guess he's converting it, they're casting it to microseconds. And then see, here's your output for, let me turn off this std standard C out, and then yeah, I mean it looks ugly, but
make the C++
that's not
code
this
like
line.
verbose
This line isn't
with the
horrible.
auto keyword and using declarations. But you can't do the former for member variables, and you shouldn't do the latter in header files, because it'll pollute the global namespace. So you're inevitably stuck with the verbose version of the code in many situations. Casting in C++ is another thing which is obnoxiously verbose in comparison to other languages. In Java, you just put things in parentheses. It's simple, concise, and clean. In C++, you have to use static cast. It's incredibly annoying and tedious to type this out every time you want to cast something, and it's a terrible eyesore that bloats up the code. Consider any function or formula where you need to perform a cast multiple times. It makes a
Calculate force. So, okay. Mass times acceleration divided by distance times distance. And then he's casting like an int 8 and an unsigned int 16 and then a float. Okay, so he's converting everything to double. Static cast. You got to do static cast on every single one. Most languages you literally just type like, you can just type like the bracket and then double bracket. That's it. You don't have to even say static cast.
hard to read. And static cast doesn't work in all scenarios. Sometimes you have to use dynamic cast, reinterpret cast, const cast, or bit cast.
And then there's different cast types or different ways to cast. It just gets better and better. So you have to, when you get into C++, you just need make sure you learn all of these and have them memorized. So static cast, dynamic cast, reinterpret cast, const cast.
Depending on the context.
Don't forget bit cast.
Common theme I see
Wait,
interpret cast, const cast, or bit cast.
Oh, interesting. This one is a C++ 20 version casting.
Depending on the context. A common theme I see with C++ beginners is that they get annoyed with reading and writing static cast, so they create an alias for it. But creating aliases for language keywords is really bad practice, because other developers won't be familiar with your version of the language, so it's best not to do this. And that's the thing that's so jarring about C++. Correct C++ code often just looks wrong, especially to beginners. And it takes a long time to build up an intuition for what good C++ code is supposed to look like.
Java style my class equal to object, and then this is the correct way to do it. Unique pointer my class object equals standard make unique cast some new object to my class.
Eventually you end up
Wait, no, I'm sorry, he's not casting, is he? I'll have to look up some of these things, but
accepting the fact that in C++, the terse solution is almost never the correct solution. Another example of something that's dead simple in other languages but complicated in C++ is creating a global variable. Have fun watching this 20-minute video on how to do this fundamental basic thing that would take 2 seconds to learn in any other language. The problem is that you have all these keywords like extern, const, inline, static, and const_expr, and they all mean different things in different contexts, and you have different idiomatic combinations of them that also have their own rules and meanings in different situations. And C++ aggressively repurposes existing keywords in inconsistent ways. The static keyword, for example, has about 3 or 4 use cases depending on how you count it. The first one is to make variables persistent between function calls. The second is to share class variables across different instances, or create class functions that exist independently of any instance. But the third use case is a complete semantic non sequitur. It's used to make functions private, or rather inaccessible from outside the CPP file that they're defined in. I really wish that they would have used the word private or internal instead of static. This illustrates how C++ keywords oftentimes don't even describe what they do.
Own a vacation rental, if it's
Also a misnomer. In the past, it was used to inline functions, which is an optimization trick to get the compiler to copy the code from the function definition directly into each call site, rather than performing a normal function call. This helps avoid the overhead of function calls like setting up the stack, passing the parameters, and return value handling. But nowadays, compilers are smart enough to do this automatically, so using the inline keyword for this purpose doesn't have any guarantees. These days, inline is used to resolve issues regarding the one definition rule. The funny thing here is that using inline on a function does the exact opposite of using inline on a variable. In both cases, they solve one definition rule related issues, but an inline function leads to potentially many separate instances of the function across the binary, whereas an inline variable makes sure that there is only a single instance of the variable in the whole binary. Additionally, you can also make a namespace inline. This is typically used for library versioning. The list of weird edge cases and caveats just goes on and on. It never ends. The keyword const_expr has its own set of nuances, like how const_expr functions are inline by default, but const_expr variables are not inline by default.
wait, what is he talking
Also,
about? This whole.
never end.
Let me
For
go
this
back.
purpose, but now overhead directly into each call site, rather than performing a normal function to copy. Third use case is a complete inside the CPP file that they're defined in. I really wish that they would have used the word private or internal instead of static. This illustrates how C++ keywords oftentimes don't even describe what they do. The inline keyword is also a misnomer. In the past, it was used to inline functions, which is an optimization trick to get the compiler to copy the code from the function definition directly into each call site, rather than performing a normal function call. This helps avoid the overhead of function calls like setting up the stack, passing the parameters, and return value handling. But nowadays, compilers are smart enough to do this automatically, so using the inline keyword for this purpose doesn't have any guarantees. These days, inline is used to resolve issues regarding the one definition rule. The funny thing here is that using inline on a function does the exact opposite of using inline on a variable. In both cases, they solve one definition rule related issues.
Wait, what did he? I missed that.
The funny thing here is that using inline on a function does the exact opposite of using inline on a variable. In both cases, they solve one definition rule related issues, but an inline function leads to potentially many separate instances of the function across the binary.
The inline keyword suggests that the function body should be inserted directly at each call site rather than making a function call. This can result in potentially many copies of the function code throughout the binary, one at each location where it's called. The compiler may ignore the suggestion if it determines inlining would be detrimental. Large functions. Modern compilers often inline functions regardless of the keyword when optimization is enabled. Okay, so sometimes it'll just inline the function even if you don't have the inline keyword. So, and I guess you just don't know. I guess it just depends on the compiler, and it's how it determines whether or not it should inline a function. Let's see. The inline variable tells the compiler linker that this variable should have exactly one instance One sec, I gotta check something. This variable should have exactly one instance across all translation units, even if the definition appears in a header included in multiple source files. Before inline variables, you had to use workarounds like the Myers-Singleton pattern or extern declarations to achieve this. Useful for constants or global state defined in headers. Okay. Okay, so it's kind of basically stating that this variable needs to remain like for one time, exist one time for the current project or library.
Whereas an inline variable makes sure that there is only a single instance of the variable in the whole binary. Additionally, you can also make a namespace inline. This is typically used for library versioning. The list of weird edge cases and caveats just goes on and on. It never ends. The list of you can also make.
So inline namespace. Yeah, so this is like some library, and if you have like a function for version 1 and then a function for version 2, you can, if you inline it, it's going to make sure that that v1 is like a global variable for that library. And right here, that's how you reference it. Lib : v1 : func. And then apparently you can calls v1 because, oh, okay. Yeah, because this one automatically gets inlined. So it's just going to be the default one.
Make a namespace inline. This is typically used for library version.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, because if you got your latest version and you don't inline it, you can just remove inline from your latest version namespace. And then as long as you're calling, if you want your library to remain on the latest version no matter what, you don't specify the version and you just call func. And then when somebody updates the library to v3, for example, and they've got the func in there and they remove inline, then you'll be calling the latest function in that library. And it might break your code, but at least you can stay on the latest version that way without having to modify all these v1 and v2 like references.
The list of weird edge cases and caveats just goes on and on. It never ends. The keyword const_expr has its own set of nuances, like how const_expr functions are inline by default, but const_expr variables are not inline by default.
Wait, what's inline? What's inline by default?
Functions are inline by default, but const_expr variable.
Okay, so const_expr function are implicitly inlined. So you can define them in headers without causing multiple definition errors. Interesting. And the compiler may insert their code at call sites. Yeah, define them in the header, duh. The inline behavior is automatic. You don't need to explicitly add the inline keyword. Yeah, I don't follow exactly what this means. But I guess they're saying you can define the function at the header, and it won't conflict with other headers. I'm not following what that means.
Are not inline by default. Also, you can't use const_expr on all types, only on const_expr compatible types. And every version of C++ has different rules on how you can use const_expr. Everything in this language feels hacked together, even the inheritance system. In Java, you have an explicit interface keyword to create interfaces. But in C++, you have to use the virtual keyword in every function, and then do this weird thing where you make each function equal to 0. And only then is it considered an interface. This is a very unusual syntax.
Okay, yeah. So for interfaces, you have to set I guess you have to set these functions to 0 basically in order for it to be a valid interface. Otherwise it'll, I don't know, it might ignore them or something. But your it's not tech. I mean, if you look here, the keyword is class. It's not, you're not really, the compiler is not really distinguishing between a class or an interface at the language level. It's kind of just looking at it as a class.
And strangely enough, when you override functions in a derived class, the override keyword is purely optional. C++, when you override functions in a derived class, the override keyword is purely optional. C++ to override functions in a derived class, the override keyword is purely optional. C++ is a crazy language, and learning it can be a daunting task for beginners. There's about 50 integer types, and the size of these types varies depending on which compiler you use and the target machine hardware. Note.
Yeah, that's extremely painful sounding. That you, depending on your hardware and like, I think, and the compiler, I think he said, like you basically, the size will, the size of the like the numbers can change.
Notice how it doesn't say that int is 16 bits. It says that it's at least 16 bits.
At least
but
16
it could also be
bits.
32 bits.
It could be
You have to know
32.
the rules about how on any given system the size of a short will be less than or equal to an int, which will be less than or equal to a long. Even the operating system which you use changes things. On Windows, long is 32 bits, even if it's 64-bit Windows. This is for backwards compatibility reasons. On 64-bit Linux, long is 64 bits. The names are also just so verbose and ugly. I hate typing long. I wish we could all just agree to use something terse like I64 in the case where we want 64 bits. Again, you could technically create your own aliases, but it's ill-advised. And I hate how fixed-width integer types have an _t suffix. I mean, come on guys, we're not in the 90s anymore. Beginners also find it weird how getting the size of standard library data structures returns a size t instead of an integer, which can also be of various sizes depending on the hardware. At some point, you'll inevitably run into
This is
7
great,
different
man.
character types and wonder what they all mean and why a character would ever even need to be signed or unsigned like a number, and why an unsigned char is often used to represent bytes and binary data, and also what's W char and what's the difference between a standard string and a W string, and what are all the issues pertaining to that. This stuff might make sense to you if you're an experienced developer, but if you're a beginner, it's incredibly confusing and it raises a million questions.
Alright, quick guys, what's a W string versus a W char or car, or a W car, no sorry, or a car 16 versus a car 8.
Furthermore, there's so many different ways to do the exact same thing in C++. There are two different function syntaxes, the traditional one and the trailing return type syntax. They don't even look like the same language. You can also get function-like behavior using a struct, and if you don't like parentheses,
This right here I think is like one of the things that trips me up the most about C++ is I would go reading articles and things on the internet, and then I would be like, oh, this is how you write a function that returns an integer. And then I'd start typing it out, and then I'd look up another example, and then somebody would be doing something completely different. And then I'd be like scratching my head like, oh, maybe I'm doing this the wrong way. And sometimes, not always, sometimes it just turns out it's like it works either way. Same, like it'll be fine one way or the other, don't worry about it kind of thing. It's just like, it's just stylistic. It's literally, how do you want to write it? How do you want it to look?
return type syntax. They don't even look like the same language. You can also get function-like behavior using a struct, and if you don't like parentheses, you can use square brackets instead. Const is another source of confusion. It's used for indicating that a variable's value is constant. It tells the compiler to prevent the programmer from modifying it. But counterintuitively, writing mutable const is completely valid C++ code. And if you really want, you can remove the constness of a variable by casting it away, but that's considered bad practice. Additionally, many beginners are surprised to find out that when you make a member variable const, you can no longer assign your object to another object. Another member variable const, you can no longer assign your object.
Sorry, I'm looking at this example here. Main class B, B is equal to A. Why is this failing? What's wrong with this? Compiler error B equals A. Compiler move assignment doesn't work.
Object to another object. Another quirk of const is that it can go on either side of the type, but both do the exact same thing. There's no point
Yeah, like this right here. It's apparently both of these are literally the same thing.
to this. There should only be one correct way to do this to avoid confusion.
Which makes me wonder what a C++ compiler would look like under the hood. It's got to be horrific. Like trying to like, oh yeah, by the way, it could be int const or it could be const int. And you need to support both scenarios. That's ridiculous.
Because pointers can also be const, so it takes a bit of practice getting used to figuring out if the const keyword applies to the
Wait, what is this?
value of const.
Wait,
There
sorry.
should only be one correct way to do this to avoid confusion. Because pointers can also be const, so it takes a bit of practice getting used to figuring out if the const keyword applies to the value of the type or the pointer. The general rule of thumb is to read it from right to left. But this is stupid and unintuitive because
So I is const pointer. Yeah, see, that doesn't make any sense to me. Const pointer to const integer.
most humans read from left to right. If you're still confused, the spiral rule might help you out. It's easy stuff, man. You'll get the hang of it. Moving on to formatting, C++ developers just can't seem to agree on how to format and style.
This is like the least of your worries if you're trying to code in C++. Like naming conventions, like that would be the least of my concerns. I mean, as much as I prefer like a consistent, good naming convention, like that would be the least of my concerns.
Their code. Should you use snake case or camel case? Should the opening curly brace go on a new line or not? Should the private section of a class be written at the top or the bottom? Should you prefix variables based on their type or context? What's the best way to split a line of code if it's too long? Should you put each parameter on a new line or just divide the function in the middle? Should you use the virtual keyword in derived functions or not? Should you use eastconst or westconst? Should references and pointers stick to the type or the name? Which extensions should you use for header files? How about C++ files? Also tabs or spaces? And if so, how many? It's like every single C++ codebase is an entirely different language. You could spend your entire life working on, say, Unreal Engine C++ projects, and then struggle to do anything else because of all the custom macros and wrappers around it that you'd have to unlearn. When I first set out to learn C++, I made it a goal of mine to study the Google C++ style guide. However, many seasoned developers cautioned me against it, explaining that the guide is designed for Google's aging codebases and tailored to address Google-specific challenges, many of which are irrelevant to modern codebases outside of Google. There's also the official C++ core guidelines, but historically it's always been very incomplete. As of recently, it seems like it's getting better, but nevertheless, most real-life codebases just don't follow this, so you're stuck writing C++ in a completely different way depending on which codebase you're contributing to. Moving forward, nearly everything in the C++ standard library that is important is poorly named.
My energy bill dropped from $150 to $50 by doing this.
Have simple, accurate, self-descriptive names for the fundamental containers, like ArrayList, LinkedList, HashSet, and HashMap. In C++, the most commonly used container is called vector.
I love these graphics, dude. These are awesome. Naming conventions be like, it's a gun and it says toothbrush. What do you call these? I forget what you call these. Pillow. It's called a pillow. Chainsaw. Hat. Oh, that's so
like
funny,
Java's
dude.
ArrayList. Plus the fundamental containers, like ArrayList, LinkedList, HashSet, and HashMap. In C++, the most commonly used container is called vector. This is kind of like Java's ArrayList. But it's a horrible name because a vector is usually thought of as being a physics concept, which represents a magnitude and a direction. Even the designer of the standard template library, Alex Stepanov, confessed that the name was a mistake. Additionally, if you want to use a HashSet or HashMap in C++,
Wait, what did he say?
you might, but it's a horrible name because a vector is usually thought of as being a physics concept, which represents a magnitude and a direction. Even the designer of the standard template library,
The designer of the standard template library, Alex Stepanov.
Stepanov, confessed that the name was a mistake.
He's like, I made a mistake. He's like, I should have never named it vector, and now it's going to be that way for the rest of the life of C++.
Additionally, if you want to use a hash set or hash map in C++, you might mistakenly reach for standard set and standard map. But these are not what you think they are. They're implemented as balanced binary trees and give you logarithmic lookup time complexity, as opposed to constant time complexity, which is what you would have expected based on the name. If you want constant lookup time complexity, then you have to use unordered set and unordered map. But honestly, you shouldn't be using these either, and I'll explain why in just a moment.
He's like, by the way, this is how you get a constant time lookup. You got to use unordered set or unordered map. And then he's like, but you actually shouldn't use these anyways.
Even the methods of these fundamental data structures are poorly named. Many containers, for example, vector,
Yes, very
empty
dangerous.
function. It's hard to tell at first glance if this function is a question, which checks if the container is empty, or if it's a verb, which empties the container.
Vector.empty. Oh my god, I just emptied my vector.
A better name would have been .isEmpty. The standard library is filled to the brim with confusing, incomprehensible function names like standard stoy, install, and stuff, and stud, and stold. And I know that some of these were probably inspired by their C counterparts, and they're just abbreviations of types.
I have to repeat that. Hang on. That was like the best part. I wonder if this guy is like, that's actually what he sounds like if he's recording his actual voice or he used AI. Hang on.
Standard library is filled to the brim with
Yeah, he did.
confusing,
you did an amazing job.
incomprehensible function names like standard stoy, install, and stuff, and stud, and stold. And I know that some of these were probably inspired by their C counterparts, and they're just abbreviations of types.
Stoy, stall, stuff, stalled.
But cryptic names like this can be very intimidating to beginners, and it makes everything seem more complicated than it needs to be. Even the most commonly used terms, idioms, and best practices in C++ are terribly named. For example, RAII, which stands for Resource Acquisition is Initialization. This is a super important idiom in C++, but the name makes it so much more confusing than it actually.
When I first learned what RAII was, and then I saw a code example describing it, I was like, what?
actually is. It just means that when an object goes out of scope, its resources should be freed automatically, so make sure you put the resource releasing logic in the destructor. A much better name would have been Scope-Bound Resource Management,
Yeah,
or CADRE, which
seriously.
stands for Constructor Acquires, Destructor Releases. Too bad neither of them caught on. Another example of bad naming is the CRTP idiom, which stands for Curiously Recurring Template Pattern. The name has very little to do with what it means. Curiously recurring just refers to the fact that the guy who coined the term, James O'Kaplyan, stumbled upon this pattern on various occasions and was intrigued by it. With the name Curiously Recurring. This has nothing
It's curiously recurring template pattern. Like, what the hell does that mean, dude?
to do with what the pattern actually does. It only describes his
stumped.
impression of the pattern, which is useless in helping people understand what the pattern is. It should have been called
I love the way he follows that up. Hang on.
O'Kaplyan stumbled upon this pattern on various occasions and was intrigued by it, hence the name Curiously Recurring. This has nothing to do with what the pattern actually does. It only describes his impression of the pattern, which is useless in helping people understand what the pattern is. It should have been called the Static Polymorphism Template Pattern, or Compile Time Inheritance. It would have been far more self-descriptive and helpful to beginners. C++ also has something called Standard Monostate, which is intended to be used inside variants to represent an empty state. The name monostate is the most pretentious, deliberately abstruse thing I've ever heard. It's absolutely wild to me that they chose that name. They should have called it standard empty or blank or void or something. There's also a feature called deducing this in C++ 23. Basically, when we call an object's member function, under the hood, the object is implicitly passed to the member function, even though you don't see it in the parameter list. Deducing this lets you make the parameter explicit. This has various advantages that I won't cover. My main gripe is that it should have been called something more self-descriptive like explicit object parameters. And the remove function in the standard library doesn't even remove anything. It just moves the element
It doesn't even remove anything. The remove function doesn't remove anything. I love it.
to the end of the container.
It just moves the elements to the end of the container.
As C++ evolves, the naming conventions only get more and more confusing. Many new features which are meant to be improvements of old deprecated ones have less than ideal names. The standard library has a mutex wrapper called standard lockguard, but it's not able to lock multiple mutexes. There was a proposal to extend lockguard to include this feature, but that was found to break backwards compatibility, so they made a new mutex wrapper called standard scoped lock. Developers have been critical about the choice of this name. It's hard to remember which one is the old version and which one is the new version based on the name alone. Some developers argue that it should have been called lockguard 2 to make it more explicit that it's the newer version. In the same vein, standard thread and standard function also have issues, but because they can't break backwards compatibility, they made a JThread and copyable function, which contain the fixes. Again, the chosen names completely fail to communicate that these are the newer improved versions. They probably should have been called thread 2 and function 2 respectively.
Can lock multiple mutexes, auto joining with stop token support.
Instead, we're stuck memorizing which versions to use and which not to use, and newcomers have no intuitive sense of what is deprecated and what isn't. And as the language evolves, I won't be surprised to see that we'll have versions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of many of these features. The only thing more nauseating
is he just made these up. Giga function 5 thread, bus and sort, super unique pointer, lol. And the hilarious thing about all this is like you could literally write wrappers around some of these functions and name it something crazy like this throughout your code base just to mess with people. And then like people go to use it and they're like, wait, what is this thing doing? And then they're like, oh, it's just using, I don't know, guard lock or whatever, lock guard and whatever the function that he's talking about earlier.
than the naming conventions, however, is dealing with header files. Header files are just awful. Pretty much every time you create a C++ file, you also need to create a corresponding header file. And
True.
you need to make sure that they're synchronized at all times.
True.
This is a blatant violation of the don't repeat yourself principle. If you change the parameters of a function in the CPP,
Seriously. Call it like gigalock or something, and then just call it, oh, just use gigalock. Like, oh, okay.
file, you also need to make sure to update the contents in the corresponding header file to match. And God forbid, if you use the wrong parameter names in the header file, it'll compile just fine without letting you know. For example,
Yeah. Oh, he's
here
good.
where it says width then height, versus the actual implementation which uses height then width. Or here where the stock quantity and the price are mixed up. The maintenance overhead that comes along with using header files is exasperating, and it's easy to imagine how this can lead to bugs.
What did the last one say? Which one are you talking about? The function, the funny function names.
Here, conventions, however, is dealing with header files.
Oh, hang on, let me turn off. Sorry.
Header files, the only thing more not.
Last function. For real, on God, no cap. Oh, dude, this is too funny.
Nauseating than the naming conventions.
That is
dealing with
hilarious.
header file. This is a blatant violation. You also need to the wrong part stock quant and the header file. It'll compile just fine without letting you know. For example, here where it says width then height, versus the actual implementation which uses height then width. Or here where the stock quantity and the price are mixed up. The maintenance overhead that comes with.
So basically, the header files won't. The compiler won't look at your header file and compare it to your source file and go, "Hey, I see there's something wrong here." It'll just be like, "Hey, I see 2 ints. Good enough."
Or here where the stock quantity and the price are mixed up. The maintenance overhead that comes along with using header files is exasperating, and it's easy to imagine how this can lead to bugs. Not to mention all the redundant typing that's involved. If you create a class that requires a constructor, you end up writing the class name 4 times. Twice in the header file where you've declared the class, and 2 more times in the CPP file where you define the constructor. And then finally you can begin writing the implementation. Writing things over and over again is annoying. Compare this to almost any other language like Java, for example, where the exact same thing is half the amount of work. The other problem with header files is that they bloat up your project directory. An application that would have otherwise taken 100 files to complete now requires 200 files in total because of the corresponding header files. This also means that you have twice the amount of files to check in pull requests and code reviews. It just adds so much unnecessary mental fatigue to dealing with this language. And there's so many different ways of organizing your project structure. Some devs keep their header and CPP files in the same folder. This is typically used in applications. Other developers keep them in 2 different folders. This is typically used in libraries. There are other structures as well that I'm not going to cover. The point is that it would all be so much simpler without header files. Perhaps the worst thing about header files is that when you include them, the compiler just stupidly copies and pastes the contents of the file into the line where you've included it. This means that if you've included something more than once due to a transitive dependency, you now have the same types and functions defined more than once. This breaks the one definition rule and gives you a compiler error. To fix this, you need to tell the compiler not to include something again if it's already been included. You do this with header guards, which you have to put inside every single header file in your entire code base. It's exhausting, and developers online argue incessantly about which technique to use because there are at least 2 ways to do it. The first is with include guards, which are more verbose because it requires 3 separate preprocessor directives and necessitates that you create and maintain a unique macro name. Usually this name is based on the file name. Don't forget to update it if you change the file name. The other technique is to use pragma once, but for some reason this isn't recognized by the C++ standard, so it's not the officially agreed upon way. And because it's not in the standard, some people say that you should never use it, whereas other people say that you should use both together at the same time. All this incessant argument.
Just use both, man. Look at these. Look how there's like 4 lines of just useless garbage
Ignores the fact
in your
that
header
this
files.
issue shouldn't even exist in the first place. The compiler should just know to include a file only once, and if you don't like that, there should be a way to opt out, not the other way around. Developers sometimes try to justify the existence of header files by arguing that
No, I actually do want to play around with some C++ because it's kind of like, it's like playing a video game on like super duper hard mode.
they represent the public interface to your code. However, classes which are declared in headers have their private variables and functions exposed there too. This is a leaky abstraction. Private implementation details don't belong in a public interface, but since they exist there, you have to include those dependencies in the header file. This means that anyone who includes your header file now by extension also ends up transitively including the files related to the implementation details of the class. To add insult to injury, if you change a private member variable, you have to recompile everything that includes that header, even if that change is purely internal and semantically irrelevant to client code. There are some solutions to this, but not really. There's a design pattern called Pimple that can be used to hide the implementation details entirely inside the CPP file, but it makes things more complicated and it comes with a performance penalty. And honestly, in a well-designed language, private variables like this should be hidden by default without all this unnecessary work. C++ in general has very weird ways of hiding implementation details. If you want to isolate your code from the outside, you can use an anonymous namespace, or you can make your function static, as we discussed earlier, or you can do both at the same time. And as I've stated before, I would have preferred a private keyword for this purpose instead. You might also see people try to hide their implementation details by putting them in a detail or implementation folder and corresponding namespace. But there's no built-in mechanism in C++ to prevent others from accessing the code in these folders. Anyone can easily include these implementation files and use them anyway. The user has to know which files are okay to include and which are not, usually by reading documentation written by the creator of the library, which may or may not exist. Another major flaw of C++'s header file system is how much it pollutes the autocomplete suggestions. As I mentioned earlier, the include preprocessor directive is just a glorified copy and paste operation, so it dumps all the types, functions, and other symbols from the header file directly into your code, which in turn pollutes your autocomplete suggestions with functions and types from all over your codebase. Consider the situation where you include a header that includes 10 more headers, and each of those headers include 10 more headers, and so on and so forth. You end up with a million symbols from the entire dependency tree flooding your autocomplete and making it useless. I can hardly rely on using tab to autocomplete my code because it's replete with irrelevant suggestions. And this is why developers hate it when noobs include windows.h. It imports like another million symbols into your project.
When noobs
Macros make everything even worse.
we use windows.h.
Macros in C++ are basically search and replace commands that happen before your code is actually
That's
compiled.
funny.
If you write to define size 100, you're telling the compiler to replace every instance of size with 100. Macros don't respect the type system or scoping rules, and they have no semantic awareness, and they operate indiscriminately across all code which is downstream in the include chain. This means that if you include a header with macros, those macros can hijack your code because those search and replace commands are now active in your code, whether you like it or not. It's like inviting someone into your house and they secretly start rearranging your furniture without telling you. Imagine that you have a function send message, and then you include windows.h. Windows.h has a macro for send message which ends up overriding your send message function. Or imagine .h has a macro for send message, which ends up overriding your send message function. Or imagine if somebody writes a macro to make private public, which is sometimes used naively for writing tests. Now,
Hang on, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. You still there, Torch? I need somebody to laugh with me at this C++ video.
all your private variables and functions are exposed. Given the fact that the header inclusion system dumps all the symbols directly into your code, the probability of there being name clashes is much higher than in modern languages that have proper module support. This is something that C++ inherited from C, and has led to the creation of another problematic feature, which is namespaces. If you're moving to C++ from C, namespaces look like a fantastic feature, because the solution to name clashing in C was to prefix your functions with your project name. But in C++,
Right.
you use namespaces
Simple.
instead. Wonderful. This is great. But if you're moving to C++ from any other language, this is a serious downgrade, because namespaces make the code look hideous. Modern languages don't force you to write namespace prefixes everywhere. In modern languages, name clashing occurs far less frequently because they don't use header files. So you deal with naming ambiguity as they arise. And
Sorry. Whoops.
yes, I know, because they don't prefix your functions with your project name. But in C++, you use namespaces instead. Wonderful. This is great. But if you're moving to C++ from any other language, this is a serious downgrade, because namespaces make the code look hideous. Modern languages don't force you to write namespace prefixes everywhere. In modern languages, name clashing occurs far less frequently because they don't use header files. So you deal with naming ambiguities as they arise. And yes, I know that you can use the using keywords to omit namespace prefixes in C++, but then you're back to square one, with the name clashing issues due to the header inclusion system and symbol dumping. So best practices basically force you to use namespace prefixes nearly everywhere. Aesthetically, the worst thing about namespaces is that they incentivize programmers to choose the shortest names possible, typically 2 or 3 letters. Obviously, if a language forces you to write namespace prefixes everywhere all the time, you're gonna end up picking obscure shorthand names for your namespaces. The end result is that C++ codebases are riddled with abstruse, cryptic, unpronounceable abbreviations and arbitrary letter mashups that are difficult to parse through and understand. Functionally, however, namespaces have a very big problem that almost nobody talks about. In C++, symbol lookup happens in ever-expanding scopes. This means that first it checks the function, then the current namespace, and then the parent namespace, and then the global namespace. This means that if someone adds a namespace that matches part of your namespace hierarchy, it can silently change which symbols are found during compilation. This means that people can break your code without directly touching your code. Let's say you have a log function, which is inside the company namespace, and you use it in a team namespace, which is nested inside the company namespace. Everything works as you'd expect, but not for long.
Okay, so he's in company, team, process data, and then he's calling log. And log, in theory, should be available to him because that's inside of the parent namespace.
Someone comes along and adds another log function inside company team, it'll hijack your call to log. Now you're executing this new log function.
Oh my goodness. It doesn't even give it like a unique identifier or something.
Logging is a benign example, but it's easy to imagine how this can lead to security vulnerabilities. In this example, the authentication system silently switches to using an insecure hash, which was made for testing purposes. The implication here is that you shouldn't use deeply nested namespaces in your C++ projects. This is very counterintuitive, because while nested namespaces might seem to provide better code organization, they actually increase the risk of name collisions due to C++'s lookup rules. Realistically, you should only have one distinct top-level namespace per project. This imposes limitations on how you organize your code, and makes you realize how deeply flawed C++ is for creating limitations on how you organize your code.
I actually don't have a major problem with this, with having one high-level namespace. I don't see the problem with that, as long as it's unique enough. I could see where you kind of want to do, like, you want to group them under one, like, company name or project, and then have, like, you know, my company library lib1, my company lib2. I could kind of see grouping it that way, but this would be good. Like, you could also, I don't know if this guy talks about it, but I'm wondering if you could, like, prefix the names of the libraries with some name underscore and then the name of your library, or even just a 2-letter characters, like, just to make it kind of more unique.
Code, and makes you realize how deeply flawed C++ is for creating and maintaining large code bases. I really can't stress how bad the whole namespace system is. Beginners are often taught that namespaces are a feature of C++, when in reality they're just a fragile workaround for the fundamental design flaws of header files that it inherited from C. Namespaces are a terrible patch, which results in an unnecessary syntactic burden and footguns that you don't encounter until you're 10 years into the development of your codebase. Not to mention, macros don't even respect namespace boundaries, so you still have that issue to worry about. It's crazy to think about how much pain and suffering is caused by header files, simply because the creators of C didn't have the foresight to predict that C would be used in large-scale codebases. This single decision to introduce header files in the 1970s as a solution to the technical constraints of their era, limited memory and single-pass compilation, has tortured millions of developers across generations. We're talking billions of dollars in wasted development costs, maintenance overhead and bug fixes, and millions of hours of collective human psychological anguish. It's truly a crime against humanity, and a crime against developers. At some point, you have to come to terms with the fact that C and C++ were never designed to be used for large software projects, and if you do choose to use them for that, you'll be fighting with them every single step of the way. That being said, I do have a little trick that I use to reduce the syntactic burden of C++ and make it way easier to read without breaking any best practices. Strangely enough, I never see anybody talking about this trick for some reason. Maybe I'll cover it in the next video, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested. Anyways, back to header files. There are so many other issues that I haven't covered, like how they completely fail on circular includes with some irrelevant error message that doesn't help at all. But the final header-related topic that I want to touch on is the compile times. C++ compile times are completely unacceptable, due to the fact that including stuff just copies and pastes the code. Everything that you include in each CPP file will get compiled from scratch every single time. So if you include string in your codebase in 1,000 different CPP files, the compiler will stupidly compile string 1,000 times. And keep in mind that the string header also includes a bunch of other stuff, which includes a bunch of other stuff, and all that needs to get compiled again and again. This is an outrageous waste of CPU cycles, energy, and time. There is a hack to fix this. It's called a precompiled header. This is a special header file which you can put all your most used includes to have them compiled only once. So now all you have to do is include the precompiled header, and you're good to go. But honestly, precompiled headers feel like a hack. In fact, the entire language feels like a broken mess with 1,000 hacks littered everywhere to get anything to work reasonably well. Precompiled headers can be perplexing for beginners. In the past, Visual Studio used to automatically create a PCH file for you when you created a new project, but it confused beginners so much that they now omit it in newer versions. These days it's an opt-in feature. There's actually so much theory about how to speed up compilation, it's like a science of its own. There are code organization strategies, build system optimizations, compiler optimizations, hardware solutions, development practices. The list just goes on and on. Modern C++ tries to fix the issues created by header files with the new modules feature that's meant to handle everything like a modern programming language would. But the language is so complicated that compiler developers are having a hard time implementing it. For a long time, only Microsoft's compiler had support for C++ modules, and even now as others have started to support it, there are still a lot of issues and bugs that need to be worked out. Even if everything is fixed in the foreseeable future, it'll still probably take a minimum another 10 to 15 years for modules to receive wide adoption. According to this website, modules won't be ready until the year 2547.
C++ needs you. Help other open source projects support C++ 20 modules. Goodness, this is insane. Man, who wants to do that?
So as far as you're concerned, you're still going to need to know how to do things the old way. And in the meantime, we're going to be stuck in a messy transition period, where most libraries still use headers. So your code is going to have a weird mix of header includes and module imports. Speaking of modern C++, when you first start learning C++, people often tell you that you gotta learn modern C++. But when you Google what is modern C++, you end up on this post from like 14 years ago.
A Stack Overflow post from freaking way back when.
Surely this answer is outdated, and it is. Furthermore, when you look up tutorials online, you're never sure whether you're being taught old-fashioned C++ or modern C++ or something else.
I love this graphic, man. This is great. You want some of that modern C++, kiddo?
C++ developer
Const X for modules.
knows the difference, but a beginner doesn't. This leaves you with an unsettling feeling about whether or not you're just wasting your time watching or reading something that's outdated. This applies to textbooks as well. Effective modern C++ just isn't modern anymore. The other problem is that online tutorials paint a very incomplete picture about how to read and write real-life C++ code. They often miss crucial concepts or fail to communicate how certain features and ideas translate into the real world. For example, you'll learn what a raw pointer is, but not what it means. You'll be taught that it holds a memory address, but there's not a whisper about ownership semantics. Raw pointers convey something very important. They convey that they are non-owning. This has certain implications like how you're not responsible for its life cycle. And if it's stored in a member variable, depending on the context, you might need to make sure that the enclosing object does not outlive the object that the pointer is pointing to. This requires that you understand concepts like lifetimes and scope and the philosophy that underpins these ideas. Another poorly taught topic is smart pointers. You learn what unique pointers and shared pointers are, but what they don't tell you is that in real life, shared pointers are a code smell. You're supposed to choose unique pointers nearly every time. Shared pointers are for very specific niche situations, like where you have multiple threads sharing some data, and it's not known ahead of time which thread will exit last. Tutorials often teach knowledge but not wisdom, because tutorial creators oftentimes don't have wisdom. They just regurgitate information from other sources to make a quick buck on ad revenue, or to sell a book or course or whatever. A lot of C++ content online is created by people who have probably never worked on a real production C++ code base in their entire life. I see so many YouTube tutorials that were released quite recently yet still teach very outdated practices and principles, and often omit key concepts and ideas. The most popular YouTube videos are just the blind leading the blind. I saw a video that went viral last year called 15 Years Writing C++, Advice for New Programmers. This guy gives the typical feel-good bromides that basically amounts to just be yourself, bro, and just be patient, bro, and there's no such thing as a bad line of code, so just take it one step at a time and everything will be okay. But in a subsequent video, he confessed that he doesn't even write C++ at his day job. He was just reflecting on some code he wrote 15 years ago. And this is part of a greater trend that I see on the internet where for some reason, people who don't even write production C++ seem to have such a high opinion of the language. Anytime I see a blog or a video about how C++ is a blast or that somebody loves the language, my immediate thought is that this person is a complete and total noob. I have a very simple assertion to make about C++, and I want to be unequivocally clear about it. If you like C++, then you don't know it well enough. YouTube videos aside, academia suffers from the same problem. The C++ that you learn in school is almost certainly outdated. I remember being taught to use the keyword new and delete in school, but nobody does that anymore. We've had smart pointers for a while. I remember being taught to use pushback on vectors without any discussions of the advantages of emplaceback. I remember...
Alright, that's enough C++ for me. My head's about to explode. Oh man, that was good though. That was funny. Alright, let's get back to this here. Let's see. Check server health. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Torch. That's what you're getting into. Sorry, that's only 30 minutes of a quickly summarized 2-hour and 9-minute video of everything that you're going to end up dealing with in C++. If you really, really, really care, I recommend, well no, I don't want to recommend something bad, but somebody needs to get out there and like with a big giant hammer and start beating all the people who are like involved in designing it over the heads until they fix things and start, like, I don't know, they need to just, I don't know if they could like start dropping and getting rid of support for all this old crap that C++ has that isn't really needed today. Like, it's just kind of crazy and insane to me that they just keep supporting all this old stuff, and then it just makes it twice as confusing. Like, why not just drop all the headers bullcrap and just the next version, this is no longer supported, and you can keep building your libraries in this old version, but you're gonna have to download the like compiled binaries and just run them like that. And then I don't know if you can do that actually. I wonder if you can just download the binaries and just run them as is without having to, well no, you might have to actually recompile them depending on what like CPU instruction set you're on or whatever, or what hardware you're targeting. You might actually be forced to recompile. Oh yeah, I guess they're kind of screwed. Maybe they could just like eliminate one thing at a time and do it like every couple weeks. We're eliminating this method. Everybody update your libraries and remove this code or rename it or whatever. Use this other function. I would. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'd just be like, tough luck. Use, I don't know. I mean, if you're relying on a bunch of, I guess you just kind of you'd have to rewrite a bunch of your, like write a bunch of your own libraries just so you can support. So if you wanted to like forcefully just go to a more modern C++ and like get some of those improvements, you just have to, yeah, you just be like, well, I can't use this library, can't use the other library because this one only, you know, can be supported by whatever, and or some of the newer versions aren't even supported by compilers. Some of the newer latest version stuff that they've come out with, which sucks. Alright, let's go ahead and try this out really quick. Let me see what my login credentials are for the super user. Oh man, that's sad. What? There's got to be a super user in here somewhere. Hang on. Okay, where are my super user credentials? Maybe it's in this project. Super duper secret password. Alright, where did AI say it put it? Settings and then ShipStation? I see no ShipStation in here. Hmm. I don't know, man. There's a lot to think about in C++. Oh my goodness, AI, how did you not know that? Yeah, I'm definitely coming back to this video later. That was funny. I wonder if that guy's got what kind of other videos he's made.
Atrocious. First of all, there's like 20 different ways.
Okay, so that's the one video he's made. That's an awesome video. C++ developer / hater. I gotta follow this guy. I'm gonna follow him for sure. And I'm gonna tag him. I wish I could share my screen. Hang on. I'm writing him a message here. This is freaking hilarious, man. Well deserved. Oh, this thing's just, dude, too good, man. Too good.
Atrocious.
I'll have to figure out how to follow him on, oh, I already followed him on Twitter or X. That is funny. Alright, let's bring this window back down. Oh gosh, let's see, the dashboard plugin uses extension to register routes. Man, that's such a good video. Too bad it's so long. It takes a while to get through. I love it though. It's freaking worth it. Lazo Velco. Or maybe it's Lazo. I don't know. Oh man, good stuff. Meet C3, the new C language partner.
If C is the old reliable pickup, C3 is that same truck with power steering, ABS, and a backup camera. And it still runs on cheap gas. Is C3 a cleaner C for 2025, or just another detour on the road to modern systems programming? C is tiny, predictable, and everywhere. But some of its rough edges slow teams down. C3 keeps the C vibe, low ceremony, close to the metal, but trims the burrs and adds a few ergonomic rails. C3 is a small, C-shaped systems language designed to interoperate with C at the ABI level, while adding a real module system, an integrated build flow, sane air handling with optionals, defer-based cleanup including defer try and defer catch, lightweight generics, slices, distinct and subtype checked types, operator
Hang on. Let's see what's going on here. Oops, that was a typo.
overloading within reason and contract. Subscribe and watch the full video at the link below. It's
too universal to replace. The first thing most hardware manufacturers give is a C compiler. The rest is up to the devs to make their links work. Yeah, nothing will outright replace C for a long time, but you can definitely start the process. This plus other languages that like Zig definitely help pave the way to that, but it's going to be a while. Holy C, C++, C3. D is actually more C-like, stable and complete language. When I begun programming 20 years ago, I was told D would replace C++. Seems it might become so. The code contains JSX syntax, ReactX. Oh, okay, gotcha. It is JSX, all right. Continue. All right, let's see here. Very interesting. Build dashboard. Sure, go for it. Build it. Yep, that's the point of the language. Oh, sorry, this guy says everyone wants the speed of C, but no one wants to actually write it outside of really low level situations. So why not make languages that people want to write with the speed of C? Question mark. Yep, that's the point of the language, and Zig, Rust, Odin, D, etc. Granted, there are some optimizing that might need to be done, but you potentially get a more pleasant syntax to work with. Don't we have Zig for this exact reason? Question mark. A lot of comments on Zig. A lot of people like that. Build dashboard with environment variables loaded. Sure, why not? Set dash A. Yep, it's got generics. That's kind of cool. Yet another attempt to make the language that will barely ship anything. I don't like this fan keyword that's everywhere now. The C way of doing function signatures is fine. Also, if the return type is after the arguments, you don't know where it'll be. Whereas if it's before the function name, it's always in the same spot, as opposed to somewhere after any number of arguments. I don't know, I think people like to think that everything that's new is better, but some of it's just fads. Wow, people really don't like that FN. Lots of, but yeah, for an evolution of C, I get that some random syntax changes would throw C devs off. They probably should have been more conservative about that. The thing is, I don't know if it adds anything. It seems almost like every new language is using it. I really do think it's a fad. I was actually arguing with ChatGPT about this a while ago. Oh my goodness. I just don't get the need for an FN keyword and then a trailing return type, so to speak. It seems like people are just changing something that's perfectly fine for the sake of change. The main issue for all modern languages is it easy for the programmer to implement and deploy a foot gun, especially memory-related foot guns? Yeah, that's the thing with all low-level languages. You get the risk of memory leakage. And that's really, 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 really bad. But there have been some apps out there with memory leaks that just go on and on and on. People can't figure out whether system slows down, and then they have to reboot. Who knows what process is doing that? I'm actually going to break down this bash syntax for educational purposes. Alright, set a turn all export mode. Turns all export mode. Any variable defined after this will automatically be exported to child processes. Oh wow, that's crazy. If succeeds, sources executes the .env file in the current shell. Oh, that's right. The dot is shorthand for source. Turns off all export mode. So set plus A. So confusing. Oh. Now I get what it's doing. Okay. And then it runs the command dashboard build. The set -A or the set plus A wrapper is a common trick. Normally when you source a file, the variables are set in the current shell but not exported to child processes, like the npm command. Wrapping it with set -A ensures all those .env variables become environment variables that npm and its child processes can see. Redirects the standard error to standard out, FD1, combining both output streams. It's crazy how little you can do in just 4 characters. That's why Bash is like really pain in the butt to understand. I don't think I've ever run into somebody who's just 100% proficient in Bash in real life. Oh crap. Hang on, fix my camera. I'll have to dig into that later and figure out why the camera's freezing on me. It keeps doing that. Force reinstall plugin. Sure, why not? Sorry, I don't even, I'm just kind of, I'm zoning out here and just letting it do its thing. You learn something new every day. Alright, so it's kind of boring. Everybody's talking about C3. It's kind of, I guess it's neat. The downsides of C++ from the prime time.
Sentry just rolled out uptime monitoring. I'm going to take it for a spin.
Plus paper cuts. My current day job is now again a C++ role. Hurts. I've been there. I recently had that happen like 6 months ago where I had to go back into C++ land for a while. Always is emotional bruising. And so I...
What do you say? Always emotionally bruising?
To go where it's now again a C++ role. Hurts. I've been there. I recently had that happen like 6 months ago where I had to go back into C++ land for a while. Always is emotional bruising. And so I find myself yet again focusing on this blog post on the downsides of C++. Overall, I have found returning to active C++ dev to be exactly what I expected. I still have the skills and can still be effective in it, but now I have worked in a more modern programming language with less legacy cruft. The downsides of C++ sting more. Isn't that funny how that is? Like when I used to program for IE 7 and 8, IE 8 felt like a godsend, IE 7 felt horrifying. I think the rest is very, very obvious. As your environment and things become more modern, the feeling of pain becomes more real. There are so many features I miss from Rust. Not only the obvious safety features. This one I feel like the quote-unquote safety features. Just throw things in unique pointers and shared pointers, and you have like 95% of what you got from the borrow checker. It's pretty nice. Or even primarily those, but also features that C++ could easily add, like sum types. called enums. I mean, you just have less convenient syntax for this. I mean, you still have that. You just have to make a little union type discriminator and boom, you got it, right? It's annoying, but I get it. I get it.
Oh man, kill existing process. Yeah, that's good.
Or first class support for tuples. But it doesn't quite have the same. It's definitely more dangerous. I agree with you. It's more dangerous. It's more dangerous. Or first class support for tuples. Actually, I do like tuples. Tuples. Are glorious. Tuples are glorious until I use them. I swear, every time I use a tuple, that .0 and .1 syntax triggers me. It just triggers me. You know, you use a tuple because it's convenient, and then after you get done using a tuple, you realize a struct is no different than a tuple, but it just has nicer names. And you go, why am I using that? Smart pointers are slow. This is true. Smart pointers are much slower. You're absolutely right. But so is the 1,000 calls to .clone in my Rust program. Okay? That also is very slow. That also is extremely slow. So it's like, which slow do we want to use? I don't know. Which slow would you like to use? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there that I agree that having a compiler check the unique pointerness of things is much better, but they are slower. Before I start getting into the paper cuts, though.
Alright, let's go back here. Let's check our admin screen. It's not even loading. And there's an error in the dev console. Here's the error. I don't think this error is related, but why not? While that figures it out,
I want to address one of the primary defenses I've seen of C++, one that I have found particularly baffling.
Okay, what's he say? I want to address one of the primary defenses I've seen of C++.
Goes something like this. C++ is a great programming language. Okay, that is baffling. I don't know anybody that says that. Like, I don't know anybody other than game devs that say this. Okay, this is a very strange take.
Other than game devs.
The complaints are just from people who aren't up to it. Wow. If they were better programmers, they'd appreciate the C++ way of doing things, and they wouldn't need their handheld. Languages like Rust are not as helpful for such true professionals. The thing is you can make the identical argument for Rust. You start using Rust, and you make some bad design decisions early because you don't understand, and then you get into this point where your program becomes just unmaintainable without a full rewrite because you've just done the Rust way of doing things, and people are like, well, if only you understood the idiomatic Rust way of doing things. Again, it's all skill issues in all languages. That argument is just a snooze fest. It's always been a snooze fest. It will always be a snooze fest, and it exists in every language. It's just some make it easier for you to go longer with your bad decisions, and I think that that's a good thing. Okay, I'm gonna throw that out there. That's why I think Go is so successful, because you can go longer with a bad decision than you can in Rust. Think about that for a second. Obviously, the phrasing is a bit of a parody, but I have seen this sort of attitude so many times. The most charitable view I can take of it is that a claim that C++ difficulty is a sign of its power and the natural cost of using a powerful programming language. What it reads like to me in many cases, however, is a form of elitism. A general idea that making things easy for poor programmers is pointless. That's why we invented JavaScript, okay? You let the poor programmers use JavaScript. Poor programmers is pointless. That's why we invented JavaScript, okay? You let the poor programmers use JavaScript.
That was a good one.
I'm
That
getting
was
canceled
hilarious.
today, boys. And that good programmers don't benefit from making things easier. As someone who has programmed C++ professionally for a majority of my career and who has taught company internal classes in advanced C++, this is nonsense to me. I do know how to navigate many paper cuts and foot guns of C++, and I'm happy to do so when working on a C++ code base, but experienced as I am, they still slow me down and distract me, taking focus away from the actual problems I'm trying to solve and resulting in less maintainable code. Yeah, I agree. It sucks. I am no defender of C++. As for the upside, I see very little. Any way in which C++ is more performant or more appropriate than Rust in terms of platform support, legacy code bases, optimization that are only available in specific compilers that often or that happen to not support Rust, or other concerns irrelevant to the actual design of a programming language. I mean, there are a lot of things that are very nice. You know, like when you're doing an array of structs and you're mutating and you're playing around, the amount of dancing and things you have to do in Rust are not as much as you have to do in C++. Granted, there's more foot guns, but
There's more foot
there's
gun.
things you can do in C++ that are just simpler problems to solve than you can do in Rust. While I'm proud of my C++ skills, I am not too proud to appreciate that better technology can render them partially obsolete. And I'm not...
Alright, hang on. I gotta take a break. What is my cloud code doing here? Why is it looking at minified code? It's trying to dynamically import .po files. The code is still trying to load .po files at the relative path. This is a vendure dashboard issue at the Vite build is not properly transforming, aliasing the .po file imports. When we added our custom extension, it may have affected how Vite processes the vendure dashboard's own internal imports. It must be part of the dashboard build. The H2O2 integration must be part of the... What? What is... I don't even know what this is. From a different source. Let me look at the vendure config. Oh, that's not... Whoa. What is going on? Rebuild dashboard. Okay. With the environment variables. Alright.
Too proud to appreciate the, having features that make it easier. In most cases, it's not a matter of programming languages doing more work for me, but of C++ creating unnecessary extra make work. Yeah, this is perfectly reasonable take. Often due to the decisions that made sense when they were made, but not long since stopped making sense. Don't get me started on header files. Yeah. Header files are a bit emotional for me. Me hates it. I do want you to know that I'm not ragging on Rust.
No, I'm building a plugin. Sorry, I just saw your message. I'm still working on the plugin, trying to get the plugin to integrate with this vendure commerce thing so that I can configure it in production. So yeah, it's still working on it. Yeah, it's creating a social credit system. Probably.
It's just that I think that people with excellent C++ background are the worst Rust is the greatest people. Because you can almost virtually transfer all of your thoughts about C++ onto Rust. You know what I mean? The reason why header files suck is that it's called a module. Why do you need to define the same thing twice? What the hell are you doing defining things? Right? It literally makes no sense that you have a file that says, here is what my class looks like, and then you have another file that says, here's how you implement it, and yet it's for better compilation speed. You know what's way cooler? Single pass to create the header, second pass to create the thing, okay? It's called a 2-pass compiler, or a 3-pass compiler, or an n-pass compiler, okay? They've been doing it for years. Somehow, I'm able to state several functions that will be used, and it doesn't have to compile the whole gosh darn thing to figure out what the hell I'm exporting, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's right. Kill any running okay.
It doesn't have to be crazy. Yes, yes, yes. And header file still has all the private members of the class inside. If I remember, C++ is 7 passes, which is crazy. I don't know if that's true, but that's wild, right? Single pass, you can get the shape of things, right? You can make these decisions. You don't need something to tell you what's already available. But I also want my programming language to be beginner friendly. I'm always going to work with
His voice reminds you of Destiny a little bit. Not Destiny, thank God, but similar sound.
other programmers who have a variety of skill sets, and I would
I don't know. I don't listen to Destiny enough to know. I don't know his voice.
rather not have to clean up my colleagues' mistakes or mistakes of earlier, more foolish versions of myself. If making a programming language more beginner-friendly sacrifices power, then I agree that some programming language should not do it. Yep. I agree with that. Go is a great language for this, but many, even most of C++ beginner, unfriendly, and expert annoying features do not in fact make the language more powerful. So without further ado, here are the biggest paper cuts I've noticed in the past month of returning to C++ development. Love it, love it. Const is not the default. Yeah, I do agree. I think that this is probably a better way of doing things. I do like the idea of specifying mutations as opposed to specifying constantness. I think that's a better trade-off to make.
I'm trying to read through my... You listen to him when you wake up, eat food, and go to bed. You're disgusting. Despicable human being. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oh, you're Hassan. You're a Hassan fan? Alright, this is dev mode code. That was not properly dead code. Eliminated. In production. This whole branch should not be present. Only the... Dude, AI sometimes just overcomplicates the crap out of stuff. Wow. This is...
And remember, with JavaScript, you have to do a const, right? They're const pointers. They're not constants. So it's like a double one. You got to be extra careful.
Wait, what did he say?
Right? Trade-off to make. And remember, with JavaScript, you have to do a const, right? They're const pointers. They're not constants. So it's like a double one. You got to be extra careful.
They're const pointers, but they're not...
It is a very... You have to do a const, right? They're const pointers. They're not constants. So it's like a double one. You got to be extra careful. It is very easy to forget to mark a parameter const when it can be. You just forget to type the keyword. See, that's the thing, is you never forget to type the mutation word, but you will always forget to type the const word. It's very, very true. This is especially true for this, which is an implicit parameter. There is no time when you are typing out this parameter explicitly, and therefore it won't sit there looking funny without the appropriate modifiers. If C++ had the opposite default, which every value, reference, and pointer was const unless explicitly declared mutable, then we'd be more likely to have every parameter declared correctly based on whether the function needs to mutate it or not. If
Alright, let's test out our dashboard. See if we got this sucker loading. Oh, there it is. Cool. Nice. Alright. And I still don't see it. ShipStation. I still don't see the ShipStation plugin appearing in the admin dashboard. We're just vibe coding like crazy.
someone includes a mutable keyword, it would be because they know they need it. Yes, it actually, I love this take, by the way. I think this is one of the big wins of Rust and other languages like OCaml. OCaml pioneered it for Rust. I'm sure there's languages OCaml got it from. If they need it and forget it, the compiler error would remind them. Exactly.
If someone includes a mutable keyword, it would be because they know they need it. If they need it and forget it, the compiler error would remind them. That's actually a really good point.
You want the compiler to tell you when you're wrong, and this is beautiful. Now, you might not think this is important because you can just not use const and have functions with capabilities they don't need. But sometimes you have to take things...
Sorry, I gotta pause that one sec here. Let's see, test resolution. What is this doing? Node E. Oh, so it's just gonna try to... Okay, it's gonna make sure the extension is resolving. Or the import for it. Oh, require resolve. Okay, it's manually resolving the import, the module reference.
by const in C++. If you take a parameter by non-const reference, the caller can only use L value to call your function. But if you take parameters by const reference, the caller can use L values or R values. So some functions, in order to be used in natural ways, must take their parameters by const reference. Once you have a const reference, you can only easily call functions with it and accept const references. And so if any of those functions forget to declare the parameter const, you have to include const cast or go to the function later and correctly accept const. Unless you think this is just a sloppy newbie error, note that many functions in the standard library had to be updated to take const iterator instead of the addition to iterator when it was discovered correctly that they made sense with a const iterator. Functions like erase. It turns out that for functions like erase, the collection is what has to be mutable, not the iterator. A fact that maintainers of C++ libraries simply got wrong at first. That's pretty impressive to get that wrong, right? Obligatory copying. Sounds like, are we talking about Rust now? Is this Rust? We're talking about Rust? In C++, for an object to be copied...
Hang on, let's see here, let's go back to it. Get lines around vendure plugin. What is this doing? Said... Oh, okay. Cool.
Is default. Okay, I do have library simply got wrong at first. That's pretty impressive to get that wrong, right? Obligatory copying. Sounds like, are we talking about Rust now? Is this Rust? Are we talking about Rust? In C++, for an object to be copyable, is default. Okay, I do actually agree with this.
Okay, in C++, for an object to be copyable is the default privileged way for an object to behave. If you don't want your object to be copyable and all its fields are copyable, you often have to mark the copy constructor and copy assignment operator as equals delete. The default is for the compiler to write code for you, code that can be incorrect.
I hate the fact that default is copy. There's something so effing emotional about the fact that when you take a vector and go const A equals this vector, const B equals A, you got yourself a copy. And there's something, I agree. I've chased down many a bug has been due to that one thing. Just hurts. If you don't want your object to be copyable and all of its fields are copyable, you often have to mark the copy constructor and copy assignment operator as equal delete. The default is for the compiler to write code for you. The code that can be incorrect. Yeah. If you do make your class move only, however, beware, because that means that there are situations where you can't use it. In C++11, there is no ergonomic way to do a lambda capture by move, which is usually how I want to capture variables into a closure. No! Similarly,
let's see here. Reinstall. Okay, yeah, reinstall it.
The standard function expects the object it manages to be copyable and will fail if your closure object is move only. This is going to be addressed in C++ 23, which should come out in 2020 and 2033 with standard move only function. But in the meantime, I have been forced to write classes with a copy constructor that throws some sort of runtime logic exception. And even in C++ 23, copyable functions will be the default assumed situation. I love runtime exceptions for things that should not be runtime exceptions. Feels good. Using standard function, not like this. This is strange because most complicated objects, especially closures, are never and should never be copied. Generally, copying a complicated data structure is a mistake. Missing a and or a missing standard move, but it is a mistake that carries no warning with it and no visible sign in the code that a complex allocation-heavy action is being undertaken. This is an early lesson to new C++ devs. Don't pass non-primitive types by value. But it's possible for even advanced devs mess up from time to time, and once it's in the code base, it's easy to miss. Agree. This bites me at least every time I start back up in C++. This bites me once. I mess up something, and it takes me like a good old-fashioned GDB/printf time to figure out what the hell did I do wrong. By reference parameter paper cuts. It is unergonomic to return multiple variables by tuple in C++. Everybody loves standard tuple. Come on. It can be done. But the calls to standard tie and to make tuple are long-winded and distracting, not to mention that you'll be writing unidiomatically, which is always bad for people who are reading and debugging your code. As a result, C++...
Let's look up the term idiomatic. Let's see here. In software engineering, idiomatic means conforming to the natural mode of expression in a given context. I like that description. Conforming to the natural mode of expression in a given context. So idiomatic is like it flows naturally, it kind of goes naturally, and it looks a certain way, it looks right. This guy's saying using make tuple and tie from the standard library are long-winded and distracting, not to mention that you will be writing unidiomatically, which is always bad for people who are reading and debugging the code.
Often resorts to out parameters. I love that C# so thoroughly loved the idea of out parameters. You actually have an out keyword so that you can have out parameters in C#. Chef's kiss on making hard code. as well as other situations.
Dude, I tell people like C# is like, as much as I hate Microsoft, C# is like not bad. It's not that bad. It's actually a pretty nice language.
You end up taking a parameter by non-const reference, meaning the function is supposed to modify the parameter. The problem is this is only marked in the function signature. If you have a function that takes a parameter by reference, the parameter looks the same as by value parameter at the call site. Really? Return false on failure. Modify size with actual size message, decreasing it if it contains more than one message. Message nice? Dude, who abbreviates message like that? Okay, can we just time out this entire thing and just realize that this is just, that I personally have some problems here? Okay? I got some problems going on here.
Oh, man.
Long before
MESG instead of just MSG. I'm no idiot magnet. Yeah, you got it. Idiot magnet, exactly. Don't be an idiot magnet when you write code.
any of this is taking place, you know what I mean? That is cursed. It is cursed. Messg. That's totally unhinged. Dude, it's totally unhinged. If you're reading the calling code quickly, it might look like the resize call is redundant, but it is not. Size is being modified by got message. The only way to know that it is being modified is to look at the function signature, which is usually in another file. Yeah, I do agree. Again, specifying mutations are better than specifying constants. I think it's just generally accepted that it's true 100% of the time. Some people prefer out parameters, in and out parameters to be passed by pointers for this very reason. I can purchase that. This is great, or would be if pointers weren't nullable. What does a null pointer parameter mean in this context? It is going to be, is it going to trigger undefined behavior? What if you pass a pointer from a caller into it? People often forget to document what functions do with a null pointer. Options are just a great way to type system specify this, and I love it. This can be addressed with non-nullable smart pointers, but very few programmers actually do this in practice. We kind of require ourselves at Netflix to do this. Smart pointers are great. In general, they're great. Yeah, they're a little bit slower, but you know what's really slow? Debugging. That's really slow. Okay, that's emotionally slow. You know what's even slower? The JavaScript we're running underneath. Okay, now that's where the real slowness is.
The JavaScript we're running underneath. Oh, that's hilarious, man. I'm like, I wish I could talk to him and ask him what he means by that, because that's like just mind-blowing.
When something isn't the default, it tends to not be used everywhere where appropriate. The sustainable answer to this is changing the default, not heroic attempts to fight human nature. Fair. Obligatory side gripe. At least in non-owning situations like this, it is possible to write such a smart pointer. However, if you want to write the obvious companion, a non-nullable owning smart pointer, a companion version of standard unique pointer, then it cannot be done in a useful way because such a pointer cannot then be movable. I don't quite understand that. This man has too much C++ power for me to understand. Method implementations can contradict.
C++ power. Oh gosh, dude. That's funny.
Just always write the code correctly the first time. LOL, 4 head, 5 head, 1 head. I refuse to use smart pointers. Interesting. Really? You refuse to use them? Is it because of the atomic incrementer? I wish there was. Like, one thing I say that Rust also does very well is not allowing non-atomic pointers to be passed between threads. I think that's a really nice thing, because that way you can have a literal +1, a very simple, smart pointer, the RC, to be passed around, and then you have the more costly arc when you need something, right? Smart pointers are awful. They're not that bad. Awful is a pretty intense word for it. They're not great. Okay, I prefer having my compiler be a smart pointer, but awful's a little intense. Yeah, if you have a C API, don't use a smart pointer. Anyways, all right. For many cases, for many classes, the default implementations are enough, and if possible, you should really rely on them, or you should rely on them. Whether or not this is possible depends on whether naively copying all the fields in a sensible way to copy the entire object, which is surprisingly easy to forget to consider. Absolutely. But if you need a custom implementation of one of these, you are on the hook to write all of them. This is known as the rule of 5. You have to write all of them, even though the correct behavior of the 2 assignment operators can be completely determined by the appropriate constructor combined with the destructor. The compiler could make default implementations of the assignment operators that refer to those other functions, and therefore would always be correct, but it does not. Implementing them correctly is tricky, requiring techniques like either explicitly protecting against self-assignment or swapping with by-value parameter. In any case, there are boilerplate and yet another thing that can go wrong in a programming language that has many such things.
Alright, back to my... see what's going on here. Create npm pack. No, why? I don't know where he's at. I haven't seen him chat in a while. He bailed on us. He's trying to ruin my stream. He's trying to cause me to not get any viewers. Would it help if I publish the npm package to my private registry and reference there? Oh, I'm about to stop streaming. I need to call my brother, say happy birthday, and I also need to, I probably have to go to the store or something. I need to get out of the house. I think I'm going to go crazy. I think I'm going to lose my mind if I don't get out of the house for a bit. Oh, okay. Okay. Perfect. That gives me time. Alright, we're streaming. We're just going to stream till I drop dead. 2-hour stream. 3 days. No food, no water. Okay, water. At least just water. Okay, I gotta figure out, he was saying time to start streaming your tractor work. Oh, nice, yeah. Yeah, I gotta do some maintenance on the tractor. I gotta do some fluid changes on it. Alright, let's open up our other window here. I don't even know what project this is in. Hang on. Wait, is this the right one? Yeah. H2O2 diary. It's H2... No. It's vendure plugin. I know it's a stupid name. That was a oversight on my part. That's why I'm not a C++ dev. Let's pull this project up. Let's see here. Do I even have Oh, cool. You can see it. Nice. Whoa, that's a lot of code changes. Whoa, baby. Oh my goodness. So many files. Should I even look at what happened here? Send it. No. Am I in C++? No, this is all Node JavaScript stuff. I'm sick of it though. I want out of JavaScript. It's just boring. Been doing it for so long now. I'm over JavaScript. Yeah, I'm not even a JavaScript dev. Now I'm just a vibe coder. I'm just vibing, dude. Just vibing, bro. Gosh, that's horrible. Hey, I gotta get it done somehow. I was expecting to be done with this project like literally yesterday or the day before. And I just discovered today that I need to build yet another flipping plugin to connect this store thing to this other store thing that does shipping, because the company that has the product and sells the product, that's what they use. They use this ShipStation, and they told me that that's the way, that's the only way to automate it, where it'll go into their system and they can just automatically send the product. And I don't want to create something that's like partially implemented, where it's like you get where you get like emails and then you have to forward the emails to the company and then ask them to send a product to, you know, this address, and then try to track that in your email. No, I'm not going to do that either. Let's see here. Why is this returning a promise? I don't see any awaits. I don't see any calls to anything. Let's see. Map of vendure order to ShipStation format. Like, I see no... Is this just like the enforced API? Like, it has to be... What the hell? I think AI just assumed this needs to be async. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on here. Yeah, I'm gonna remove that. Okay, let's remove the await. We don't need to await that. Dude, it is miserable. It's not that it's hard. It's just like the amount of time, just the sheer amount of creating things and patching things together is just on and on and on. Yeah, some neighbor was honking his horn. I think he's letting the other neighbor know he's home. It's drinking time. Probably. Come on. Come on. Come on. Any day now.
Wait until your friend implements a template for you to solve this problem. Gosh! Conclusion. Unfortunately, look at me. I'm getting all steamed up. I'm steaming right now. Unfortunately, I'm too well aware of why these decisions were made, and it is exactly one reason: compatibility with legacy code. C++ has no addition system, no way to deprecate core language features. If
Oh my goodness, dude.
new addition of unfortunately, I'm too well aware of why these decisions were made, and it is exactly one reason: compatibility with legacy code. C++ has no addition system, no way to deprecate core language features. If new edition of C++ was made, it would
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, was like somebody needs to just have the balls to just eliminate all the garbage in C++, and it would actually be a perfectly, well, not perfect, but it would be actually a decent language and super fast. But instead they just, I don't know. I guess that's fine.
would cease to be C++. Though I support the efforts of people to transition C++ to new syntax and clean some of this stuff up. Yeah, but Rust doesn't break backwards compatibility either. I think there's been one such case of a method being completely removed due to some gigantic security violation. But even with the additions, I don't think it removes anything, right? I don't think there's anything that says that it can't be undone. C++2 when? You should see C++23 before we talk about C++2, okay, buddy? But Rust is a new language. Yeah, I know. Rust is a new language that's expanding exceptionally fast. Just wait for this article to exist with Rust. It's going to happen, right? However, if you ignore backwards compatibility, it's going to go back to OCaml. It always goes back to OCaml. Don't worry. It's coming back. The arc's happening. However, not atomic reference counter, by the way. If you ignore backwards compatibility in the large existing code bases, none of these paper cuts make the programming language more powerful or better, just harder to use. I have seen good faith arguments in favor of human-maintained header files, surprising as that is to me, but I challenge my readers to tell me what is beneficial about C++'s design choice in these matters. I agree. You might find these things trivial, but these all slow programmers down while simultaneously annoying them. If you are experienced enough, your subconscious might be adept to navigate it, but imagine what your subconscious could do if it didn't have to. But how adept are you at seeing these mistakes in a code review from your junior colleagues? Impossible. If you are a rigorous reviewer, how much more time does it take? How adept are you at finding these issues quickly when a bug arises? These are great questions. Honestly, these are great things. Oh, Camel sucks. You suck. Okay, you know what? We're not going to have this. You know what? This is 1984 going to happen right here. That message never existed. Get the hell out that message. What would be more effective? Let's see. We'd be more effective, more efficient, and happier if these issues were resolved. Programming would be both enjoyable and faster to do. What's the downside? The only upside is continuity with history. And while I can see the value in that, it is very limited value with very limited scope. I agree. This is a great article. This is a great article on some of the C++ paper cuts. I really agree with the 5 one. That is the rule of 5. It is just so painful, and I've had it happen to me, and it is just like it can go terribly wrong. Okay, hey, C++ is cool, but man, does it have some foot guns. The name is the foot gun-agen. Let's do from C to C++.
Ooh, he's going to say why he thinks C++ is better than Rust.
Why I think C++ is still a desirable coding platform.
So he goes by the Primetime? I thought he was Primagen. Maybe it's on Twitch. He has a different name. He's like a software dev. I think he started in the early 2000s. And he worked his way up in different places. I guess I don't know exactly where he worked, but he basically, I think the last place he worked at was at Netflix, doing tons of like crazy optimizations to speed things up and make Netflix super fast. I guess he worked some on the TV app and different things.
Compared to Rust. Okay. I mean, this is a bold take because, I mean, you don't even get a build tool with C++.
Oh, it's so true.
Just so you know. not communist for starters. You're trying to bait me again. We're not getting baited. Not getting baited. When a question is made comparing compiled languages like C++ and Rust, the typical generic answer comes both are compiled languages with no/minimal runtime that lets you write whatever the machine can do. So performance will depend on your writing and not your chosen language. Interesting. Okay, I think I see where this take is going. This is very interesting. While this is largely true, there is lots of important details left that are important to be highlighted. Not without controversy, of course. Here, I will try to dive into some of those insights. Okay, so this actually seems like it's going to be a really good article because I've been wanting to see someone voice a good defense of why C++ is still good. My general take is that it's very easy to still do, easy is definitely a skill issue when I say this. It's still very easy to do shared mutable memory in C++ comparatively. Fair?
Wait, what?
Fair. Easy is definitely a skill issue when I say this. It's still very easy to do shared mutable memory in C++ comparatively.
Shared mutable.
Do shared mutable memory in C++ comparatively. Fair?
Okay.
Fair take, I think. Okay, I think. But you also get, I'm just going to continue reading. But you also get the, with C++, if you choose to use unique pointers or shared pointers, you have a runtime slowdown that effectively Rust solves at compile time. It's just easier to work with, right? It's just much, much easier to work with. So that's kind of like in my head how I kind of think about the C++ versus unique pointers are free, man. Are they free? Are they fully free? Shared pointers are not free, right? They have an atomic counter in them, correct? I didn't think, okay, we're getting conflicting answers. I didn't think unique pointers are free. I know shared pointers definitely cost something. Shared aren't. Okay. People are generally saying, I could see why unique pointers should be free because ultimately at the end of the day, long as you are semantically correct in compile, you should be able to just get rid of the unique pointer. I think that's pretty fair. So, hopefully. Unique is just a destructor thing and is deleted a move copy constructors. Okay, so it's still something. Just not as much. It's low overhead. All right, because you know it's cheaper than non-move copy constructors and all that? No, none. None's always more free than something. Even if the overhead's super small, it's still cheaper than nothing. Okay, it sounds like we're getting kind of, I would have to look it up. I don't know the exact outcome of a unique pointer, so I just know they exist. They're great. They make life really, really easy. They give you a lot of those safety features that you've always wanted. They're fairly easy to use. And bada bing, bada boom, your code's significantly safer in C++ and more managed and easier to work with a team with a unique pointers. Shared pointers also are pretty neat, but I know that they come at a cost. That's my working mental model. I don't know exactly what a unique pointer does in comparison to a shared pointer, other than that shared pointer has the atomic counter and unique pointer doesn't have it. But what does it do and how does it manage it? Does the compiler completely just take out all constructs of a unique pointer and just turns it into the thing? Just hides it completely? I have no idea. Below, I took a picture from an article on ResearchGate about, in principle, both Rust and C++ are compiled languages that use 95% of the LLVM compiler infrastructure. Rust and C++ are translated into IR, intermediate representation, where most, arguably all, optimizations are made. Below, I took a picture from an article on ResearchGate about loop optimizations. Notice that in the first Clang box, no optimization is being done. Only pre-processing, macros, etc., and desugaring, e.g. lambdas, all optimizations are done in the second box, where C++ no longer exists as a language. All right? There's all this good stuff. Here's all the canonicalization passes, loop optimizations passes, poly, loop vectorized, late, mid, end passes, classic late, mid, end passes. You know what I mean?
I swear he's just making up bull crap at that point. Oh, man.
Classic. It's the classic late, mid, end. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Okay.
I just, I totally identify with that, because sometimes I'll be trying to sound describe something with precision to somebody in coding, and you'll end up with like a total word salad. You're like the thing, the thing in the mutilizer, verbalizer, return looper, and it's like it comes out like making no sense whatsoever.
The translation layer exists between. I actually have no idea what LLVM actually does, so this all just sounds magical.
Yeah.
I've never really studied into optimizations. I know they're quite magical, they're quite fantastic, and it's one of the few times in life where computational theory and the real world meet, and you actually can do some pretty cool stuff. I've always wanted. It's one of those like I've always wanted to learn X. For me, that was in that realm, right? It's always in the always wanted to learn. This translation layer exists between C++ and its respective AST abstract syntax tree as long as a logic container are not conducive to feed optimization algorithms. Most optimization logic needs to be portable, information-rich, and quasi-assembly representation where all the side effects are resolved. That is why C++ and all other languages get converted to IR, intermediate representation, before optimizations are performed. Okay, perfect. The same logic applies to languages like Julia, Scala, and Rust. Rust adds 3 extra IR layers. HLIR, THIR, and MIR. Ooh, the trilogy. Most trilogies suck in successive lowering steps. Still, these extra layers are related to type checking and safety mechanisms, e.g. the well-known Rust borrow checker. Okay. Cool. Cool. The parenthesis here, Rust claims that there are Rust-specific optimizations done at the MIR level that will, in the future, impact performance significantly. I have found a list of such transformations, but I could not assess nor prove that the performance impact is real or just rhetorical. My post on Reddit asking for comments on the subject has also not produced any conclusive proof either way, so even the experts are on the fence on this one. I feel it was more wishful thinking on the part of the documentation writer at the time.
I cannot figure out how to connect to my private. All right, I think now's a good time for a break. I'm gonna drop off because I need to take a break. Peace. See ya.